hey, Tyler Booker is an amazing power guard. In a phone booth, he is unmatched, but get him outside that phone booth, which is a very small radius, and he is more than matched.
Isn't there a movie that like takes place in a phone booth where like
It's
somebody's
literally called phone booth.
It's called
where
phone
Colin
Is it
Farrell's
called
getting
phone
shot
where,
at?
where somebody's like at gunpoint and they can't leave the phone booth?
Yeah.
That's Tyler Booker. If he leaves the phone booth, he's cooked. Welcome to the opening bell of the NFL Stock Exchange podcast. I'm Trevor Sikkema. That is Connor Rogers. And if you see the other two screens here, whoa, it's because we got a doozy here for you. It is the beginning, the inaugural, the very first collaboratory, not a word, mock draft series that we have here for the 2025 NFL draft cycle. And Connor and I are joined by our very good friends, Brett Kollmann and EJ Snyder from the Bootleg Football channel. Fellas, this is one of our favorite podcasts that we get to do every single year, getting to link up with you guys for a what we would do mock draft. And selfishly, that's the part that I'm the most excited about. Not only are we giving the good people a brand new first round mock draft, but I get to hear what you guys have to say about the first round, which is why I tune into your channel anyway. So, fellas, I appreciate you joining us once again. How you guys doing?
Let's get weird.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Who's the Buffalo linebacker that you love so much? Sean Dolak? Is he making an appearance?
Have you got to him yet, by the way?
I have. I watched him indeed. He is just a you guys ever watch the show The Program, you know?
Yeah.
Football. I mean, that's him. Just the middle linebacker, just praying for contact, just like he's hoping to make a training camp, seat at the table, you know, like that's what he's trying to do. He just wants to make tackles and make things happen.
Rams at 26. Buckle up, Rams fans. He's in play.
What have you done to my boy? This is terrible.
You didn't draft Omar Spates, and he was somehow a starter for you, an undrafted free agent. But yeah, we're drafting Sean Dolak in the first round, so buckle up. Connor, I gotta ask you how you are, because I'm legally obligated to do that.
To pull the curtain back, like we jump in to record, and us four are just so excited. We start podcasting way too long without hitting record. It's great, but everybody misses out on so much good content. This is obviously one of our favorite shows of the year, and I can't wait to get it started.
Guys, you do such an unbelievable job. I think, first and foremost, covering the draft like at a deep level that not a lot of podcasts do. And for anybody out there that loves what we do and isn't following what they're doing over on the Bootleg Football channel, please do so. Like, we're in the part of the draft season where obviously we're talking about first rounders because it's a lot of fun and we're doing a full first round mock, but like these dudes do such a great job of diving even deeper. And now that we get into, okay, we're into the end of March, we're getting into April, a lot of people go, okay, yeah, the top 50 names, we get it. What about rounds 2, 3, 4, things like that? They do an unbelievable job of not only scouting these guys, but they've got a lot of player interviews that they do every single year as well. So it's truly the depth of a draft class that I think the Bootleg channel really shines. So I just wanted to give you guys your flowers there and make sure that if anybody is listening to this and does not subscribe to your channel, they absolutely need to do so. Do you guys have like I know I'm putting you on the spot here. I know you guys did a lot of interviews, like a favorite type of an interview that you did this year, like one where, oh man, you got done with a certain interview and whether you guys have posted or not, like, dude, this guy was amazing. Because that's also the part of this draft process and every draft process that not a lot of people get a ton of insight to. But you guys do a great job of just sort of giving people that peek behind the curtain of how these prospects are as people as much as players. So I'm curious, is there one that really stood out to you one way or another when you were doing those film breakdowns?
I'll give you two. The one we just posted with Kyle McCord is fantastic. I thought Kyle did a great job of breaking down why he had the season he had and how his teammates helped him and how the system helped him. So go check that one out. That just dropped yesterday. And the other one was one we did with the Kansas cornerbacks, and I say plural, so we had Melo Dotson and Kobe Bryant. And somebody told us coming in, oh, it's really good that you got both of them because this one opens that one up. And they sat down, and we were like, no, that's backwards.
Yeah, they said Kobe was the quiet one.
Right.
It's like, nah.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's like, nah.
And we were like, I don't
Had they
think
ever
so.
met him?
And 30 seconds in, we're like, nope, that's backwards. Yeah, but they're both great. That one's really good too. So that's probably coming, I think, next week. But yeah, I appreciate all the fine things you said about our channel, and we feel the same way about you guys. As evidence for that, when you said, "Will you?" when you saw me in Dallas, you didn't finish your statement, and I said, "Yeah, we're in."
Yeah. which is why we love you, because we know that you're down to ride for any sort of draft content, and especially when it comes to collaboration stuff. So 'tis the season, getting to the end of March and into this time of April, we start this Collab mock draft series. So it's awesome to kick it off with you guys. Normally I ask Connor, does he want to pick for odds or evens? But if you are new to the Collab mock draft series, what we do here on the show is we bring in guests and then we go 2v2. So Connor and I are actually going to team up, and Brett and EJ are going to team up. So we're still going to alternate odds and evens, but that makes it a lot more fun. You hear a lot more conversations. And of course, like I said at the top, this is now a what we would do mock draft, which Connor and I haven't done a what we would do mock draft in months now. We're trying to predict what's going to happen, but it's no fun having a guest on and then having them just sort of predict what we're all trying to predict. I want to pick their brain. Where are they with these prospects? So I think that makes it a lot more fun. So Brett and EJ, I will ask you guys, want to pick for odds or do you want to pick for evens here?
I think we definitely want the odds, just so we get both the Bucs and the Jets.
Let's go. That's what I was hoping
Great
for.
for us.
Got to get Sean Dolak in the first round somehow. So
God, I swear if
right.
you pick Dolak at 19 for the Bucs, we'll unplug it. We'll unplug this bad boy real quick. But okay, this is good.
Yeah.
This is good. I'm pumped that you guys have the odds here, because it just gives us a chance to kick back and listen to how you guys are going to analyze our favorite team. It also, Brett, gives you a chance to try to fix Houston's offensive line, which went from not good to oh God. Okay.
Say why, Trev.
Yeah.
Say why. Because we willingly traded a franchise left tackle, because apparently if you're not getting leadership from more than 10 guys in the locker room, there's a problem. Can't rely on the head coach, can't rely on the quarterback, or I don't know, any of the defensive linemen. No, need the left tackle to be the leader of the team, apparently.
Just
never mind the fact he's third best in the league in pressure allowed rate, but whatever. I'm not running the team.
Just send him a couple of inspirational TikToks, like the motivational speaker TikToks, like that would have got him on track. You could have kept him on the team. That's all we needed to do here. You didn't have to ship him off to Washington.
Man, Trev, your check is in the mail.
Thanks,
I'm
brother.
never going to get over it, by the way.
Thanks, brother.
I'm really not.
I'll get double steak next time I'm at Chipotle with that check there. Okay, so you guys are up at number 1. I've pulled up the beautiful PFF mock draft simulator, which you guys can do at home. You can follow along with this podcast, or you can do mock drafts yourself. If you go to pff.com, you have a PFF subscription. You can run anything from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 to 7 round mock drafts. You can also run as many as you possibly want in a single given day. It is truly limitless if you have a PFF subscription. So go ahead and do that. We're going to click all teams here. We're going to go one round. Enter the draft. Okay. Now I got to ask you guys a question up at the very top. What are we doing here? We trading? We got trades up before the draft starts. You thinking about it? What are we doing with the Titans? I will leave the floor to you guys to discuss what you want to do here at number 1 with Tennessee.
Well, EJ, I think so. There's nuance to this, right? Because it would be easy just to say, yeah, take Cam Ward. He's the best quarterback in the class. You also have to acknowledge that if Cam Ward came out last year, he would have been at best QB7. So it's not necessarily is Cam Ward the best prospect in the class? No. But he is the best quarterback in the class, and he's at least good enough to justify it, especially when you look at what they currently have at quarterback. You can't do another season of Will Levis. You just can't do it. So I think you just kind of have to divorce the prospect grade from the reality of where this team is, and at least acknowledge that he's close enough that you're willing to take a swing on it, because, I don't know, if you get fired anyway, who cares, right?
I mean, they care, obviously.
That's how I live my life. If I get fired anyways, who cares?
Yeah. I'm going to go out and live my life today like I want to get fired. No, I'm with you with Tennessee. While I was at the Combine, I got to sit with the Field Vision Pro 2 guys, and one of the examples we used to demonstrate their software was indeed Will Levis, and it was the typical quartile graph, top right good, bottom left bad. Will Levis is so far down in the left-hand corner, you can only see like 3/4 of his face. It's not just that he's bad. He's real bad. It's not that you can run him back and in any way seriously say we're trying to compete. So while Cam Ward is not the best player in this class, it becomes a question of very much, what are you going to do if you don't? And, I think Cam Ward is a good quarterback with an above average arm that could grow into a mid-level starter, and that is enough to take the swing on when you're staring down the barrel of gestures at everything, literally nothing else.
Yeah. I mean, I do agree with sort of what you guys are saying there. It feels, I am shocked at how little not only the Tennessee Titans did, but also the Cleveland Browns and the New York Giants did at the quarterback position. And we'll talk about those guys as we get to those picks at 2 and 3. But yeah, I thought we'd be in a situation where, sure, one or two of them might be fighting for Cam Ward. I mean, all three of those teams are unbelievably desperate for like the same exact reasons. They don't really have other options to believe in, which is crazy to me sort of going into this point. Connor, anything to add to that? Because it sounds like they're taking Ward here at 1.
No, it's what I would do if this was us. I'd fight pretty hard to stay pat and take him with your Tennessee situation. I like Cam Ward quite a bit. I think it's totally justifiable to take him number 1 if you're Tennessee. And, you're right. Like, Tennessee, they just didn't do much of anything in the pro market to upgrade this position. While we know the Giants tried to get Aaron Rodgers, right? You would think that the Browns eventually might sniff around Kirk Cousins, and they brought in Russell Wilson for a visit. So I know we're doing what we would do, but all signs point to Tennessee also leaning this way because it's just logic prevails, right?
I think so. All due respect to Brandon Allen, who they signed. They did sign Brandon Allen, so I have to shout that one out. Okay, so Cam Ward number 1 then, guys?
Yeah.
Do you think about trading back at all whatsoever, or again, does it just go back to the point where it's like you can't even afford to explore that?
I really don't think you could afford it.
I'm with you.
Truly. Like, again, I like Cam Ward as a prospect. I really do. Like, would he go number 1 in a normal year? He wouldn't. But it is what it is, right? Like, if you think you're getting at least a solid starting quarterback out of it, if you pass on a solid starting quarterback when you have Will Levis, like, you're just not doing the right thing.
Stuff.
And the other thing being, this year is
this
year. You're not going to get the same amount of trade value moving back that you would in a typical year because of the wide middle of talent and the similarity of grades as you get really past the middle of the first round. So it's not like there's going to be some huge draft haul for losing that. And then you have to look at, okay, then who do we pick? And you look at the rest of the quarterbacks in this class and you go, I think we'll stay put.
Yeah. Only way that I would entertain this if I was Tennessee is if I believed Shedeur Sanders and Cam Ward were on the same plane, and I get to trade back to number 3 and probably pick one of those guys because it would be a coin flip for me anyways. But that's not what I think. I don't actually think that, and so you're right. I would go with Cam Ward at number 1. Connor, we're on the clock here at number 2. It's what we would do mock draft. I know they need a quarterback, but I am not considering one here with the 2 guys that we have at the very top of the draft board. What do you think?
No, obviously our top 2 players, and you and I have shared the same opinion on who the number 1 player in the draft is for a while now, although it's not consensus. You and I have shared that opinion that it's Travis Hunter. And when you look at the Browns in this spot, you can't go wrong with either player. I mean, imagine Abdul Carter and Myles Garrett screaming off the edges. That's absolutely insane. But I think that Travis Hunter would not only be really valuable to them at corner, but there's a lot he could do on offense for this team when you look at how it's constructed. Yeah, Jerry Jeudy really figured it out last year. Cedric Tillman, before he had the concussion, he had some really tough injury luck. He looked really good as maybe a number 3, but then you plug in Travis Hunter as this part-time number 2. Things look really different for this team real quickly. So I would go with Hunter here, Trev, because I think he's the best player in the draft.
For as good as Abdul Carter is, I agree with you. I think that Abdul Carter is a really, really good prospect, and I think he could be a really good pro at a premium position that is a pass rusher on the edge. With all that to say, what Travis Hunter is rare. Like, even if you're only getting like a little bit, like even if it's just the theory of him potentially playing corner or wide receiver for you, he can legitimately play both at the pro level. The uniqueness of who he is as a football player trumps, in my opinion, even the uniqueness of a talent like Abdul Carter playing a premium position that is a pass rusher on the edge. So I agree with you. Let's do it. Let's go with Travis Hunter here at number 2 overall to the Cleveland Browns. Fellas, you're on the clock now with the New York Giants at number 3. If you have any Travis Hunter thoughts and, considering him for the Giants or wishing that you would have got here, feel free to do that as you sort of talk about who you would now select at number 3 for the Giants.
Yeah, that kind of does piss me off because I really wanted Travis Hunter at 3. So
I bet it does, brother.
Yeah.
And I look at Cleveland's depth chart at receiver. You got Judy, you got Woods, you got Tillman. How fast would it be, or how fast would it take for Travis to become their number one receiver there, even with Judy? I would say first week of camp?
Yeah, it's just how much can he give to the offense?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's not ability based. Yeah, I'm with you.
And they said that I can't remember if we said this when we were recording or not recording, but we were jokingly talking about, sometimes these coaches and players lie when they're at the combine podium, which I thought was illegal, but EJ let me know that that's actually not the case. They do that. They do that sometimes. But the Browns did say, hey, we think that Travis Hunter could play both, but Andrew Berry said wide receiver is what we would primarily look at him at, and I think that fits for him in Cleveland. It really does.
I think
before we make our pick,
yeah, go ahead.
EJ, would you entertain trading Abdul Carter?
Probably not. Depends on how far down, right? If you're going to go maybe a couple of spots down and you had somebody else you liked better, I could see it depending on who it was. But if you're going to say go farther than about 7 or 8, I'm going to say
what about 10?
Oh, hello.
No.
He had to do that to him. He had to do it to him.
I would love to have him on the team. Look, Abdul Carter as a Bear would be fantastic. There's a huge need there. He would plug in across from Sweat and make that line legitimate in a way instantly that is necessary. They do need an edge in this draft. He is the very best one. What's the cost, right? If the Giants are going to take like 40 cents on the dollar in a crap draft just because they want to move down, why would they? Like, they shouldn't. And unless they're going to do that, I'm going to preserve the picks and do something else. But love the player, love the fit. I just don't think I'm down with the cost.
So something I want to bring up, just because of the structure of the Giants defense, I almost kind of feel like Abdul would play the same role that Brian Burns does.
Yep,
absolutely.
I would agree.
Yeah.
So that's what kind of throws a wrench into it. It's like, what if Jacksonville wanted to come up, right? What if what if the Patriots were like, we really want Abdul, Travis is already gone, we have no interest in Shador. Like, what if the plan was, which is what we think it is, based on, I don't know, everything, they're going to do Shador anyway. What would it cost for the Patriots to come up for a spot just to make sure they're getting Abdul instead of somebody who's below them who would then come up?
I'll tell you, I think Carolina would get aggressive.
That's the move
8.
right there.
I think Carolina would get aggressive at 8. I really do.
And they should, right?
Yeah, and
that makes more sense to me from both sides, right? If you believe, because I was going to flip it on its head, Brett, and say, okay, so if we don't take Abdul as the Giants, who's your guy? If you believe it's Shador, if you believe that's the route they're going to take or the route they need to go, yeah, I think you're probably still going to get him at 8. And Carolina makes perfect sense. Dan Morgan's there, and he can get aggressive and get a piece for that defense that he really needs. That is going to give them a jump in the rookie season, which is important when you're in the top 10.
So, I mean, if we're just using the Draft Tech NFL trade value chart for the draft picks here, to move from 3 to 8 would be a difference of about 800 points. The Panthers' second-round pick, because they have the Rams' second-round pick. Remember, they don't have their own. But that second-round pick is like 330 points. So it would probably cost you...
It's expensive.
It would probably cost you a 2 and a 3 this year, because Carolina's got 2... Well, no. They have their third-round pick, and then they have 2 fourth-round picks. And then they have 3 fifth-round picks. Jeez. So they might be okay with this. You'd probably have to give either your 1 next year or 2 this year, 3 this year, 2 next year.
I would. I don't know about you, EJ. I would prefer the 2, the 3, and the 2, just because I think Carolina might take a little bit of a jump this year. Not that they're going to be like great, but I don't think they're going to be a top or a bottom 10 team.
Yeah, if you can preserve 1 next year, you always want to do it, especially because, like you said, Carolina's probably not winning the Super Bowl this year. Sorry, Panthers fans. Spoiler alert. I know I should have said so first, but
And New York
no.
is also in a spot where, like, this regime kind of has to pick their own players, right? For as much as you would love to be like, oh, okay, yeah, first rounder next year, ain't no guarantee that Joe Shane and Brian Dable are going to be here.
Right. You want the instant capital for your bad roster.
And they still need a lot of stuff.
Right.
There's multiple pieces, for sure.
So
I'd entertain that. I think the Giants would probably entertain that this year as well, because they have two pretty good edges already. Does Abdul Carter make the roster better? Yeah, he makes everybody's roster better. That's not the point. It's that they can get some capital in a thin draft, move down, still get the quarterback that you think they want, Brett, and, have an answer, just like we talked about at the top with Tennessee. They come out of the draft with knowing which direction they're going to go.
So, that being said, Carolina, you guys are good with it?
Yeah, I would sign.
Oh yeah, we picked for 8. Oh yeah. Let's go get Abdul Carter. I didn't even realize we were in the driver's seat, baby.
Yeah, Trev, we actually have to sign off on this deal.
Yeah, you have to say yes.
What's the Talladega Nights line where he's like, "Excuse me, Mr. Dennett, I'm about to do some driving." Actually, so I like this. I actually like signing off on this deal, Connor. If you're good with it.
Yeah, I'm a fan.
All right, let's
go get Abdul Carter.
I always enjoy doing that. Because I have all the power. So Carolina's up at number 3. So we're trading up to number 3. We're taking Abdul Carter.
Simple as that.
Adding him to Ejiro Evero's 3-4 scheme. And, man, now, with Carter, man, this defensive line all of a sudden is pretty nice. I mean, I know they don't have Milton Williams. They kind of did for like 45 minutes in theory, and now they don't anymore, which is a bummer. But fully healthy, it's Jadeveon Clowney. It's Patrick Jones II, who I think is actually an excellent edge 3. Abdul Carter. And then on the interior, it's Bobby Brown III, who had a really good year last year with the Rams as a run stuffer. Treshaun Wharton, who is a good run stuffer from the Kansas City Chiefs, who got a bag, really did this offseason. And then, of course, Derek Brown. So I'm all for it.
There's your identity.
There's the identity. Okay, so now we're still up with the Patriots at number 4. Connor, there's a lot of different ways that the Patriots could go here. If Abdul Carter was on the board, I would think about trading back if I was them, but he is not. So I don't think it's as alluring for anybody to come and move up. I think it's more about them staying at number 4. So who do you like here for them?
Well, obviously, I would think, you'd love to have one of the top 2 players that just went, which is tough for New England, because now I feel like I stand in the camp that I don't think Will Campbell is a great tackle. I think he'll be a great guard and an average tackle. So I don't know if I want to spend the 4th overall pick on Will Campbell. Mason Graham is definitely a fit, but I know they're probably thinking offense here. And it feels a little early for Tet, as much as I like Tet. This is a tricky spot. I mean, it really, really is. Like, when you run New England scenarios, you're hoping that one of Hunter or Carter make it, but to be fair, why should they? And I think this is a totally realistic spot. So I think Genty's the best player on the board, and hint, hint, they need a running back, but I don't think they can afford to take 4th overall. And then Graham would actually be the next best player for me. So I would actually sit here and say Graham if they had a real day 2 plan on how to address their offensive needs. What do you think, Trevor?
So the only reason why I wouldn't take Graham is just because they just signed Milton Williams. And in theory, they have Milton Williams and they have Christian Barmore. Now,
Barmore is a giant. They know more than us what's going on there.
Right. I mean, he had the blood clots thing.
He didn't play, really.
It's not just the clots, it's the knee, too.
So,
right, it's just But, I mean, he is a really good player when he's healthy, so if they feel like he's cleared for the season, then, they would not take Graham in that spot. I just feel like no matter what I do on offense here, I'm either reaching or taking a running back. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, really. Which, in this draft, so many teams...
How fast the top of this draft unravels. People are like,
the tier of player.
Yeah, they're like, right through 8, no problem. I'm like, 8? Like, really? No. You're sure about what happens at 4 and 5? I'm not. And here we are with only, 3 players off the board, and we're like, I don't know what we're gonna do.
I know. I mean, I guess if I just didn't care about him, in my opinion, being a long-term interior player, I would take Campbell.
Right.
Because he's the best offensive lineman on the board from a talent perspective.
Right.
So, because they
You're not
also...
thinking M'Bou at all.
I like M'Boue a lot, but they have to be. I think M'Boue is the best tackle in the draft, but they have to be hoping Morgan Moses can be a stopgap for them this year. Unless they think M'Boue plays on the left side, which I wouldn't draft him and just throw him to the left side. I think that's a bad strategy.
It would be determined by, I'm assuming they're doing a 30 visit for him and them doing a private workout.
And see,
we wouldn't know that.
Right, exactly. So. Yeah, like if they took M'Boue here, I'm like, hey, he's the best tackle on the board. And, to counter the Moses point, like he's hurt every year at this point. He's an old tackle who's a good player, but his body has failed him every single year for about 3 years. So, I mean, Trevor, what do you think? Like, I know you like Campbell more than me at tackle, so maybe there's an argument there.
Yeah, I don't really have an issue taking Will Campbell at 11. I don't. I also don't have an issue with taking Tetairoa McMillan at 4. I think he's a stud. And I think that some people would be like, well, Mike Evans was picked 7th and Drake London was picked 8th. Like, none of them were even in the top 5. Like, every draft class is different.
That's not a good way to evaluate it.
We just had the conversation that, like, okay, yeah, sure, you get past the top 3 picks, and then it's the wild, wild west. So at that point, I think this draft class kind of just becomes whatever you want it to become, and it's just the players that are good. You just got to pick the players that are good. I'm not taking Tetairoa McMillan over the wide receivers that were in last year's class. It's not last year's class. It's this year's.
Right.
And I'm comfortable with him as wide receiver 1 this year, and I think he's going to be a damn good football player. So I'm not going to lie, I had not thought of Mason Graham, and I don't think they would do it. And I guess I don't think we should, but I wonder if there's more to the give Milton Williams whatever he wants to come to New England than necessarily just what he did in Philadelphia, and maybe more of like, oh, we're kind of worried about Barmore long term. And if that's the case, then Mason Graham wouldn't be crazy. But I would go with Tetairoa McMillan, Will Campbell, or Armand M'Boue. One of those. Yeah,
you got to help Drake May. You almost have to.
Right. Do you have a power ranking of those 3? Because whatever your power ranking is of those 3, I would be comfortable going with them.
Off of pure talent, just talent, not evaluating that I think Campbell's a guard. It would be Campbell, M'Boue, and Tet, and they all made my last top 10 the last time I did a big board. So it's not a gigantic reach. If I have to have a tackle, I take M'Boue, which is why in this scenario I kind of land on Tet, honestly.
Really?
Because somebody's got to catch the damn ball for Drake May. I can go get a guard on day 2 of this draft, right? I can get a guard on day 2 of this draft.
I'm cool with it. I think Tetairoa McMillan's awesome, man.
Yeah, I'm not one of those people that has just gone on the roller coaster with him, which seems like the whole community. I've been the same about Tet since we watched him in July.
Right. The roller coaster went up and then it got stuck, and we've been waiting for the mechanic ever since. And we're right here with this
just screaming. Get me out of here.
We're just at the very top.
This sucks.
Get me out of here. I don't want to pick 10 at 4. Oh man.
So I don't go on roller coasters.
Okay,
They're for
let's
idiots.
take Tetairoa McMillan. I also got to get this off. I gotta get this off my chest too. I'm watching the timeline, and I'm very curious as to what you guys think of Tetairoa McMillan. So this might be funny if I go on this rant and then you guys are like, he stinks. But I've been watching the timeline just like go crazy over Tetairoa McMillan. Like, oh no, he's not even wide receiver 1, and now he's barely a first rounder. And I'm like, okay, you know what? I'm gonna go watch his lowest graded game that we have at PFF this past season. It was Northern Arizona, the second week of the season. It was his lowest graded game. The first 3 plays of that game, he's lined up in the slot. It's an inside slant route, first down. The second play of the game, he's lined up as an X receiver at the outside, does a great job eating up the cushion against off-zone coverage, breaks exactly where he needs to when the cornerback when he gets in the quarterback's blind spot. The corner panics, has to grab him, defensive pass interference, first down. The third play of the game, he has an inside block where he down blocks from the outside and springs a 50-yard run. And I'm like, what are we doing?
Yeah, I know.
What are we doing?
I don't know. It's Flagstaff slander. That's all that is. That's all I heard.
We're taking Tetairoa McMillan at number 4. Yeah, we're taking Tet 4.
Roundabout way, but we got there.
I would actually love to hear some quick thoughts that you guys on McMillan before we do the Jags at 5.
He had 34 contested catch opportunities, which is a nutso number, and caught 18 of them, which being over 50% on a sample size that large is actually not as common as you think.
Right.
Like
yeah,
even
50-50 is like a bullshit line.
No, 50-50 is really good. Like,
Right,
if you
yeah,
got a
right.
50%
Right.
contested catch rate, you're great. If you have a 60% contested catch rate, you are among the leaders in this class. There's some guys I really like in this class that are, in the low 60s, and people are like, well, it's just barely better than 50-50. I'm like, 50-50 is not real.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like-
yeah.
I think Isaiah Naylor,
like Ted.
who's like 6'4", 220, was at like 27%.
Right.
Yeah.
Like,
It's not always a guarantee. It is not always
No.
a guarantee.
No, I like Ted a lot.
I like Ted. Yeah.
He's a really good player, and I was worried when everybody was talking about the fact that he was going to run slow, more for his benefit than anything else. It's not that he's the same speed on tape. He has been. I think his speed on tape is pretty darn consistent and quite functional. Again, people tend to look at numbers with 4.2 and 4.3 and say, oh, if you're not that, you can't play wide receiver. It's a fast position. There are a lot of very successful wide receivers, many very successful wide receivers in the NFL who ran 4.5 something or low 4.6s. Like, that is functional speed in the NFL. And he's right there, and that's fine. So he can catch everything. He's got really good body control. And yeah, the comps to Evans and London are low-hanging fruit, but there's a lot of overlap between those three players.
Mm-hmm. All right, so you guys are up now at number 5 with the Jags. What are we doing here?
Ooh.
EJ, I know this is going to be super easy to do. Could I sell you on Genty?
Oh!
For the Jags, no. I think they have more needs, and I think they can get good things in this running back class, and I mean really good things in this running back class later on down. As far as blue chip player, like, we know we got a good football player. Yeah, you could sell me on that immediately, but I was going to
say,
so
can
sure
you sell me on Genty? Because I kind of want to hear this.
So Travis Etienne's in the last year of his deal, and he's Travis Etienne.
Yeah.
And Tank Bigsby is a really solid number 2 with 2 years left on his deal, but we get 5 years of contract control for a potential elite running back. You got BTJ at receiver. Like, I like Parker Washington as a slot. De'Ami Brown is like your number 2. Like, you can even just add to the room on day 2 in this draft. Like, in the abs. And again, I say this as somebody who's like not a massive Mason Graham guy. Like, I think he's good.
Yeah.
But I don't necessarily see top 5 good. And I'm not going to speak for EJ. Maybe he sees it similarly. Like, if I had to take somebody top 5, I would sleep a little bit better at night if it was Ashton Genty, but that's just me.
Yeah, you're never going to have to sell me on Genty being a blue chip player. I believe he is the best at his job in this draft. I don't think anybody in this draft is better at doing their job than Ashton Genty is at being a running back. And again, I'm sort of on the roller coaster with that one since July, right? Since early before this season. And especially a month into this season, it was very clear that was the case. So in terms of just pure old security, sure, you're getting a good player and you can say, we got a good player and we don't have to do that again until next year. But in terms of need, I think, again,
it's a good pirate impression, EJ.
Yeah, I was going to say that was excellent.
Yeah, we hadn't had
I
one
tell
of
the
those on
pirate
pod.
joke, but everybody knows it by now. So, no, I'm trying to think of alternates. Like, I know they really want corner in Jacksonville. And again, like defensive line, but you can have the same arguments about defensive line that you have about running back because they're 2 of the deepest positions in this class. So you could say, hey, if we get Genty here, we're going to get a really good defensive lineman with our second round pick.
Where are you leaning then?
Yeah, that's, again, I think this draft is extremely messy from the top down. Like, I don't think there's a clear answer because I'm like you. I think Mason Graham is a good and solid defensive player who will go in the first round. Is he going to be like the first defensive tackle off the board for me talent-wise? He's not. So I'd sleep less well about that. But boy, I can hear the hue and cry from Duval now that we took a running back at 5.
But would that be worse than the hue and cry of 2 years from now when Mason Graham has a pass rush win rate of 11%? And they
you don't have to sell me on either of those arguments. So if it's just pure old what we would do, and I have to sleep better with Jacksonville's pick, I'm not going to argue.
It's
what you guys want to do.
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would not argue against Genty. from a player because I think he elevates any offense that he goes into pretty much in the league, maybe outside of Philadelphia's. Because
remember, like they got Walker Little at left, they got Harrison at right, they just signed Makari and Hainsey. You got Ezra like offensive line. I think they think is totally fine. So we're ruling out offensive line there.
Yep.
The receiver that we probably would have considered is gone.
Yep.
And as far as D line, you have a bunch of guys that are graded pretty similarly, but I don't necessarily have top 5 grades on any of them. So for me, it's like literally between Genty and Warren.
Yeah, I mean,
it is
a
like
very
a wild Jade Barron pick if they want to make an entire secondary of just nickels. But like,
Right.
I think Jade can play outside, but I do think he's in the discussion just because he's talented. But yeah, again, this is like we've been having this argument for months as Bears fans at 10. Here we are 5 picks earlier having the exact same argument. Like, well, there's not a lot of what we really actually want, and the one thing we did want's off the board, so now what do we do? And, you know, I think Genty's a get out of jail free card on that because you know you're getting a good player. Like, you're getting a really good player. I think you could say the same about Warren, but again, what's the value of a tight end, a top tight end versus a top running back, and is Genty a better player than Warren? The answer is I think the value is higher for running back. They're going to touch the ball more often, and I think Genty's a better player than Warren. So if we're talking about those two, it's Genty.
I think sounds like I talked you into Ashton Genty.
I think it was hilarious because it was like, hey, can you talk me into Genty? And like, no. And here we are like 4 minutes later. It's like, yeah, he did.
I mean, it's Jacksonville. Like,
they probably trade Travis Etienne then at this point before the season starts, right?
Yeah.
You have to. And you'd get like what, a 4th round pick for him?
I don't even know about that. Yeah.
4th, 5th,
I'm
like
not
that.
sure about
But
that.
that's the thing. Is like we're talking about a running back who like we're not replacing like prime CMC here. We're talking about a running back that you might get a 4th round pick for.
Yeah.
So it's like,
no,
who cares?
I'd never thought of it before, but
No, I mean, it's an upgrade for sure in terms of where they are in their career right now. It's just I think it really speaks to the fact that everybody, all fan bases are in this kind of same quandary of it doesn't matter if you're at 5 or 15 or 20. This draft levels out really, really quick. And then it's just, like you said, Trev, you got to pick good players, but good players are defined by what you need, where you are in your contract structure, where you are in your team building. And it is a very different draft for that. So to your point, Connor, somebody said earlier, oh, well, you know, you don't do X in the top 15 or you never pick this position, you know, before 20. And I'm like, that just throw all that stuff out the window this year.
Yeah,
this
totally
is a very different draft.
Lock us in for Genty then.
All right. Ashton Genty, number 5 overall to the Jacksonville Jaguars. Would love to hear what any Jags fans who are listening, what they think of that one, or at least just even the conversation that we had there, getting something back for Travis Etienne, you know, because look, man, Liam Cohen, obviously he is hired as the head coach because of what he does as a pass game type of a coordinator. They don't have the offseason that they had last year in Tampa Bay without Bucky Irving. Like, straight up. They do not have that season without Bucky Irving. And Liam Cohen absolutely knows it. So I think that if they think they're all right with their offensive line, it's not the craziest thing in the world. Connor, that puts us up at number 6 for the Las Vegas Raiders. Can I convince you on Tyler Warren?
No.
No? All right. Tell me. All right.
No. I want to hear
4
it,
minutes
though.
later.
We just had this. We just had this. All right. We just did this. Okay. All right. I'm gonna try to sell you on it.
Yeah, please do.
1, Tetro McPlay. 1, real football. 12 personnel. Tight end heavy.
Yeah.
We need 3 of them apparently.
Yeah. The 6th overall pick's going to play 35% of our snaps.
So he's not. Here's the thing. All right. They're already shopping Michael Mayer. They're trying to move Michael Mayer. Okay. I think that for whatever reason. Well, I think that they're trying to get a lot more for him than he's actually worth. So I think that they are trying to move on from Michael Mayer. Well, at least what teams are willing to play for him. I didn't mean for that to be.
I'm right there with you. I mean, like, go figure.
Whatever, you know, his trade value is, they're trying to move on from him. Brock Bowers is not, as much as he is like a pound for pound good blocker for you, he's not a guy that you're going to want to be in line all the time. Now, I think that Tyler Warren is stronger and bigger. Yeah. He's also not even somebody that you necessarily want against 5 technique defensive ends all the time, but I think he's a little bit better when it comes to on line of scrimmage work. So if you draft him, then you set up a scenario where, one, you're freeing up Brock Bowers to be used as an X or in the slot whenever you want, and you could still play heavy and have a tight end on the field in Tyler Warren. So you get him as a threat, and you get Brock Bowers as a massive mismatch at probably both of those spots. 2, Tetairoa McMillan's obviously not on the board, so if you're thinking wide receiver at all, it's not like you're going him versus Tetairoa McMillan. And I just love the fact that, you know, we've talked about them needing a running back. They can get a running back a little bit later, even in this class, or maybe it's even next year, whatever. When you get one of those players, even though I said that on the line of scrimmage, Brock Bowers is probably a not ideal tight end 1 when it comes to run blocking responsibilities, I'd love him as a wing back in 2 tight end, in 12 personnel, right? I would love him to even play out of the backfield some. You can teach him some fullback stuff. So all of a sudden, he gets now to be used as a lead blocker in space, and Tyler Warren can be attached to the line of scrimmage. I think the flexibility that Tyler Warren gives you on that offense is more valuable than any receiver that you could think of, any offensive lineman you could think of, any running back that you could think of. Now, obviously, we can go to the other side and talk about how desperately they need a corner. I fully understand that. But the more I thought about it, honestly, like 5 minutes ago when they were sort of going outside the box with Genty, the more I was like, dude, Tyler Warren actually changes this offense for them if they were to draft him. So
I don't disagree with anything you said. That's the thing. Like, I'd love Tyler Warren on this team, but I think I'd rather spend this pick on defense. And I think the combo to me would actually be between Mason Graham, who I still love, and Jahdae Barron, which this is early for Barron. But when you look at their defense, like, they could use a playmaker on the back end that can handle different roles. And if you had a front 4 of Max Crosby, Christian Wilkins, Mason Graham, and Malcolm Kuntz, and whatever they get out of Tyree Wilson, like, that's an identity of how you could actually win some games. It's like, all right, our front 4 is probably better than yours, and you're going to have to deal with that. And that would actually excite me. I think Graham is in a different tier than a lot of the defensive tackles in this class, so maybe that's where it's different for me. Like, I'm not sitting here as the Raiders and going like, I'm just going to, get the same guy later on in the draft, whether that's at 37 or 68. I can get a good player, but McMillan being gone is tough. I love Warren. Like, you don't have to talk me into Warren. I think he's clearly one of the best players in this draft, but I mean, both Myers and Bowers play in the slot plenty, where I struggle with getting the most out of him with how they would use all of their offensive personnel.
I think they'd just go heavier is what they would do, which I don't hate for a league that is, I think, turning around a little bit from, okay, we spread things out a lot, and now defenses have countered with having a lot of too high stuff, and now, but the boxes are lighter because you're still trying to stay spread out while having 2 safeties on the field, and so when you get a little bit heavier, it's sort of like, in my opinion, where offense is going. So I don't hate it, but also, like, that's a really nasty defensive line if you draft Mason Graham, and I obviously love Mason Graham. So
I mean, for context, like, I have Graham at 4 and Warren at 5. So if we took Warren, it's totally justifiable.
So it's close.
It's totally justifiable. I love Tyler Warren. I don't know how much better.
So you're saying there's a chance.
But how much better does this make them as a team?
Warren?
Yeah.
A lot.
You think so?
I think it extremely. Yes.
I still think they'd be extremely thin at outside wide receiver with 2 giant holes on defense.
I don't disagree with what you're saying there. I just wonder, and maybe this is the wrong way to look at it, I think Warren impacts their team positively more than Jahdae Barron does, Will Johnson does, or Mason Graham does. Now, that might be a little bit more of a short-sighted benefit to the team because the offense is a little bit further along. Like, if we draft Jahdae Barron, it's like, all right, cool. Now we only need 4 more starters in the secondary, so it's like, that's where it's a little tough.
It's just too early for Barron for me. I unlike it sounds like you guys, I don't love Jahdae Barron just living on the outside playing corner, personally. Like, that doesn't excite me.
Play outside.
I think he's Trent McDuffie as a nickel.
There you go, which is what I love most about him. So, but with the Raiders, I'd love an outside corner, and unfortunately, like, if this was Will Johnson after 2023, write it in ink. But we have a lot of questions about Will Johnson after 2024.
All right, well,
why don't you game it out with what you think is going to be there on day 2 and create package options?
Right.
'cause
That's the way to do it, is that...
second round, third round, fourth round, fifth round, 3 sixth rounds. Wow.
Oh, there's your starting outside corner.
Yeah, we're gonna wait for Fentrell.
I mean, it is
Cypress,
Pete,
actually.
so it's possible, right?
so-
Everybody competes.
That's what I'm saying.
So if you took Warren at 6, and maybe you're going to end up winning this, Trevor, after all of that. It's just ridiculous. Like, utterly ridiculous.
Connor, I feel your pain. I just did this.
Yeah.
Same dance.
Yeah, it is a disgusting feeling.
would you rather have Tyler Warren and Tyleik Williams, or TJ Sanders, or Darius Alexander, or maybe Derek Armour's probably not going to be there, but like one of those guys,
Tyleik by far. The other two, no.
or Mason Graham and
an actual wide receiver that can run for this team? That'd be nice.
whom?
Like Jalen Noel?
Are you taking like Jaden Higgins?
Sure. Keep going. We have a lot of options here.
Yeah.
Rock Taylor.
Ooh, all
Sixth
the way
round.
down.
Hey,
All the
Memphis,
way
shout
down.
out. Shout out to Memphis.
The 7-round
all
mock
right.
draft stream. We'll get all
Who
of
is
this.
actually all right. Mason Graham and Jaden Higgins,
Oh, man.
Trey Harris, Jalen Noel. You wouldn't pick Restrepo. You wouldn't pick Jack Bash.
While we were recording, we're seeing that Restrepo ran a 4.8 or 4.9.
Yeah, we saw
Yeah.
that.
Whoa.
Yeah, while we were
Yeah.
recording. I mean, we don't have official pro day times on that, but I was like, wow.
Yeah, I chose not to believe it.
Yeah, same. I have never scrolled away from something faster.
Yeah. Didn't see it.
I wasn't at the pro day with a stopwatch. It can't be real.
Okay,
Toxic.
all right. Mason Graham and Jaden Higgins, or Tyler Warren and Tyleik Williams.
I love both combos, but I'd still go with the first one to make the team that much better. You don't agree? Let's go with your scenario.
No.
Let's go with your scenario because we
no.
never.
third rounders.
We've got a lot. We've got rope in the third rounders. Let's see what we got.
Just keep going.
We need tiebreakers.
Oh man.
You thought this is a one-round mock
No,
draft?
I want to go with Warren
That's
because
right. You're gonna be
Raiders
here
fans
all day, boys.
never get this scenario. This never happens. So go with Warren at 6. They see Mason Graham at 6 probably in 40% of the mock drafts they read.
All right.
So go with Warren.
All right. I was gonna say we got a lot more episodes to record between now and the draft, so
No,
I don't
go
want you to, quiet hate me until then. So I was gonna give you Mason Graham. You're right.
Oh, he'll
you would be
loudly
quiet
hate
about
you.
it.
He knows how.
You'd open up the show. Connor, how you doing, my friend? Yeah, jackass. Well, I'm still thinking about that dumbass pick you made in the last
Been
mock.
stewing.
All right.
I haven't talked to anybody in a week. Don't
All right,
fucking
Tyler
call
Warren
me.
at 6. Tyler Warren at 6 puts the Jets up on the board at number 7.
This.
Tread lightly here, fellas.
Yeah,
I know.
he's-
We're
I'm already
trying,
pissed
Connor,
off.
We're trying.
I
But
have already just dug the
Yep.
knife.
Yep.
You
Go
did
ahead, take
this.
Mykal Williams and watch how long I sit on this stupid recording. Do it.
He's all go for it. Show me. I'm just. Doom is coming at 10. Like Doom is like this
Yeah,
is.
it's not looking good at the moment.
No, this is really not lining up well. But I mean, we were joking
will say-
yesterday in the group chat about which tackle the Jets were going to take, and we're
Yeah,
kind of
it's actually not
here
really
now.
that difficult here.
No, we're kind of here now.
I mean, the fact that you have Membu and Campbell and Banks and Simmons all there, right? And obviously it depends on medicals for Simmons, which he said he was going to do a full pro day like this coming month.
He did say that. Well, hold on.
Yeah,
he
and
did say that.
Isaiah Bond said
that
he
at
was
the
going to run a
combine.
4.1 something. So take that as you will.
I didn't know you were allowed to lie at the combine, and EJ told me that, and so now I don't know which way is up.
And now you can get booed if you lie at the combine. They will boo your ass in the stadium. Yeah.
I forgot he got booed.
Booed
Oh, yeah.
out of the
Well,
building.
there's probably some people that put some money down on that one and lost it in real time right in front of him. So what do you expect?
Yeah.
Also, by the way, fun fact: he did hit the top, the highest top speed of any player during the 40-yard dash. So he was number one in something, just not the time.
Yeah, it just took him a while to get there.
It just took him a little longer to get there than it did for Matthew Golden.
So looking at the Jets' offensive line, you got Olu Fashanu, John Simpson, Joe Tippmann, AVT, and Carter Warren. Carter Warren, for me, like, I don't care about the presence of Okorafor. I don't necessarily care about the presence of Max Mitchell. Like, that one just... Is this as easy as it seems to me on the surface?
Yeah.
Of just taking Membu at 7, EJ?
I think it is. I did a deep dive on Membu this week and this weekend, and I liked him before. I actually came away liking him more, and like everybody, we're having the same discussion. If you sit that guy in the room or you have him in a 30 visit and you work him out, and he is one of those guys that's ambidextrous that can play left, if that works out, he's one of the most valuable players in this class, period. Like, if he can play left, he is extremely talented athletically, and I don't think it is ceiling, and that's exactly what you want in a young tackle. That's a huge question, but here it's not a question. You're going to plug him in at right and go to the bank. Like, yeah, just do it. He is a very, very talented player.
All right.
There you go.
Armand Membu. Easy enough. Connor, we good? We good with that?
Yeah. Yeah, that scenarios
Just
makes a ton of sense.
It's good. It's good. Just checking.
On a
I
platter.
will ask the question, though, Connor. What number is higher if they did take Michael at 7? The number of sacks he gets as a rookie or the number of shots you do in the first 10 minutes?
Let's actually map this out.
So what would
can
you
your
get
liver
the day
take?
after?
Over-under
You
is-
have to add in the second round.
Yeah, right.
The over-under is 5.5.
Well, if I wasn't working, yeah, it would be a landslide of shots.
And if you are working,
And if I am working,
yeah.
yeah,
All
what are
right,
we
we're
saying?
headed to
Just a
commercial
little
break.
less.
Flask coming out of the
over
suit.
under 3.5 sacks as a rookie. I think
I
it's
mean-
fair. No, I'm serious. Like
Yeah, because what did he have? What was his high?
Probably about that.
right. It felt like that's where he hovered around.
Let's see. Michael
And
Williams.
it's not even like you can hang your hat on pass rush win rate or like, oh, it
No,
was super
that
high when
makes
he
it
lined
look
up
worse.
outside. Like, it
Yeah.
was low no matter where he lined
Yeah,
up.
don't dig,
It was
Connor.
low
It
no
gets
matter the
gross.
scenario.
Yeah,
Four
four
and
and a half,
a
four and a
half.
half, and 5.
Yeah, 4.5, 4.5, and 5. That's the thing,
He's
man.
consistent.
Like, look, I think Michael Williams. I think Michael Williams is really talented. I think he could be a good player for a while. I think there's certainly a chance that we're going to pick him here in this exercise. But especially after this year, for the people who went into this summer and were like, "Hey, I'm going to bet on Michael Williams. I think he's taking the next step as a pass rusher." The final game that he had in the 2023 season was that bowl game against FSU. They put him in a stand-up outside linebacker role. They actually played him as a 3-4 edge, and he actually had his best pass rush game of his career. Now, they said that that's where he was going to play this upcoming year, and whether it was because he was playing hurt or they just didn't like the results of what they saw this summer, he did not play there. And so now with 3 years of tape, I don't really know how you go, yeah, I would take him in a position where he should potentially get double-digit sacks for you. He was never close to it. So that's just a little Michael Williams.
Especially not at 7.
Yeah, that's the thing.
That's the problem.
If you want to take Michael Williams, even like, like later in the Bengals at 17. I know it's not a good example because they need a pass rusher. Like Bucks are the same thing, but like within the top 20, like somewhere around there. Okay, maybe you're starting to have the conversation, but I think people get carried away with, well, of course he'll be a better pro. Like, that's the Shamar Stewart conversation, too, right?
I know. That's
Sack
the one
and a
that
half,
gets
sack
me
and-
is that we have this
Sack and a half,
tremendous
sack and a half,
athlete.
sack and a half.
And
3
he's just-
years in a row.
And he's just going to get great at football as the competition increases. And I'm like,
Yeah.
Well, everybody
whoa.
knows programs like Georgia and Texas A&M don't have good coaching. So,
Right, yeah, right.
Yeah, that's a
gonna get
huge leap
unlocked.
for me. And a lot of people take it way too easily. He's just going to, the light's just going to come on. Oh, really? Tell
And
me
I
more.
think that Shamar could very comfortably be anywhere from a 4 to 8 sack guy in a season.
Yeah.
But it's not like you're getting 8 from him every year, in my opinion. And I think people talk about him as if he's going to become like a regular 8 sack a year guy. And if he does, obviously great. I want him to. He's a freak of nature and he's fun to watch. But again, I think it's less of a guarantee than a lot of people care to admit. You guys traded back at number 3 to the Giants spot at number 8. We traded up and took Abdul Carter, so you guys are back on the board at number 8, and then you're on the board again at number 9. Sorry to give you the triple
That's
threat.
all right. I think we have to pay this one off because that was the whole reason for making the trade. So you're on the hook for this one, Coleman.
So
Best of luck.
It's a little early for me for Mason Graham. Not gonna lie. And I know Giants fans are like, "Oh, please put him next to Dexter Lawrence," which I think there's really good pass rushing interior linemen in this class. I don't necessarily think you need to take Mason Graham in the top 10. And I want to read off some numbers for Giants fans that are also backed up on tape, by the way. If you're looking at true pass sets and pass rush productivity against true pass sets for this entire D-line class, Mason Graham is like barely in the top 12 in this class. Omar Norman-Lott blows him out of the water. Derek Harmon blows him out of the water. You look at Ty Robinson, you look at Aeneas Peebles, even Riley Mills, both of the Ole Miss guys, Walter Nolan, J.J. Pegues, they're both more productive as pass rushers. Mason Graham has a lot of clean wins on tape. Like, he's got great feet, he's got great hips. As a run defender, I like him a lot as a run defender. But his lack of length and power as a pass rusher means he either wins clean immediately or he does not win at all. There's virtually no secondary pass rush at all on tape. Like, if the first move gets stopped, he can't just transition rush and win with power. He doesn't really collapse the pocket. Like, I see people bring up Taven Bryan. I don't want to be that harsh because it's not like that. But I see a good 3-technique defensive tackle that is a good run defender and will contribute some really, really nasty wins as a pass rusher until he goes up against a guard that has similar athleticism to him, but with more length, which is virtually all of them. And he's going to get stuck because he can't then transition rush and win with power. I don't know if I would take that in the top 10. I would take it somewhere in the middle of the first round, maybe obviously late in the first round. But if I just want a 3-technique to line up next to Dexter Lawrence and go win me a lot of pass rush reps, I'm taking Omar Norman-Lott, top of round 2. Not necessarily Mason. I'm going to take something else early in round 1 that I can't get in round 2. As for what that is for the Giants right now, with who's on the board,
oh man, I do so love watching you paint yourself into the corner of the kitchen.
I mean, so Will Campbell's there, right? If you want to put him at one of the guard spots, would that interest you?
Until they fixed their secondary, this was a pretty easy pick for me. But I feel like, they've, getting Javon Holland really gave them a boost in the secondary, and and Paulson Adebo too. Like, they went out and did work to fix their secondary. So, that sort of pick went away, and now, yeah, I could certainly be convinced of guard. I believe in, the value of guard even this high, which again is the stretch, right? A lot of people are going to say, you get a guard later, and it's true, but I don't discount guards, the way a lot of people do. It comes down to probably guard or defensive tackle for me. And again, I'm not sure.
I feel more confident. I could be wrong on this one. I feel more confident about Will Campbell being a multi-time Pro Bowler at guard than I do Mason Graham being a multi-time Pro Bowler at tackle or defensive tackle.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that logic. So and I'm hanging the Giants pick on you because you said trade back.
But like, if we're trading back and we're getting capital and Will Campbell,
I feel better about it for sure.
You still have Tommy DeVito as your starting quarterback, but
he's really thinking
we're going to have a year
later.
of the Jameis experience.
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry. That's true. That's on me. That's on me, actually.
Because, the actual starting quarterback, not starting Campbell. I mean, there is a starting Campbell. The actual starting quarterback for the New York Giants is still in Austin, Texas. So
sure, right. Of course.
He's going to go.
There's at least 6 teams saying that right now. Our future starting quarterback is in Austin, Texas.
Until he doesn't declare after next year, which I cannot wait for. I'm so
my
serious,
dance.
too.
No,
I'm so
it's my
serious.
favorite dance, Connor. It's better next year. It's better next year. It's better next year. Well, you've been without a quarterback for 3 years. Is it?
I'll collect another NIL check and stay here.
Yeah.
All right,
Austin's
so
pretty nice.
Will Campbell with the Giants at 8, and now you guys are up with the Saints at number 9.
Oh, boy.
Yeah,
this is always a tricky one. It's always a tricky one.
Yeah, it is
So
hard.
my first instinct, EJ, just based on best players on the board that I'm really confident are going to be really good players in the NFL.
Yeah.
My first instinct is Jahdae Barron or Malachi Starks. What say you?
They're both great players. In terms of need, I don't know that they're crying out for either. But
so secondary right now, their starting secondary is Isaac Yiadom, Alante Taylor, Kool-Aid McKinstry at corner, and then Tyron and Justin Reed at safety. So like Malachi would be the heir apparent at safety.
And they have Jordan Howden too, who has played for them a little bit. He's halfway through his rookie season, but
yeah,
I love Malachi. I don't think they'd pick Malachi.
Yeah, he's a great player. It seems kind of stacked up.
They're also gonna. I think they're gonna play Alante Taylor in the slot a lot. So it's just not. There's kind of a logjam for him. Yeah.
So it really comes down to if you think Jahdae Barron, who did play a lot outside at Texas, was a cover corner who spent 90% of his snaps, the highest percentage of any corner in this class in off coverage. Played a lot of that shuffle technique out there because he's just an unreal zone corner playing in a defense that's going to be majoring in zone coverage. I could see him being I could see him being what the Chargers thought Asante Samuel Jr. was going to be, but like a much better version of it as like an outside field side corner, right? And if you really want to be a nickel, obviously he can be a spectacular nickel. Like that's the fit for Jahdae Barron in New Orleans specifically. For some teams, they'll just see him as a nickel because he's so good there. So it's like, do you value that enough to take it here, or best player on the board for you? Maybe like Jahad Campbell being the heir apparent to Demario Davis.
I think they're gonna love Jahad Campbell.
Who wouldn't?
Yeah, right. He's such an awesome player.
I think they would absolutely take Jahad Campbell.
I mean, that feels better to me. Like he's got a clear path to playing time than, quite frankly, probably either of the guys in the secondary, just because of who they have there and how they're stacked. Of course, I've been saying that about Demario Davis for the last couple of years. He keeps proving me way wrong, so he seems kind of immortal. What about the running back debate? Like they've got a lot of running backs. You're
thinking Amarian?
I'm getting there.
But are they ready for it?
I don't. Well, Penning, Ruiz, McCoy, Nick Salvadori,
it's just my big worry. My big worry is like, is this a team that's even in a position to be that audacious?
No, I don't think they probably are. So I would love it if there was some hulking right defensive end that we could slot in behind Jordan Cameron, but they went out and got Chase Young, and they got Foskey, and again they've got guys there, again not stars necessarily, but I don't think there's somebody cut from that cloth at the top of this draft either. So here we are again, sort of juggling like, well, what's good? And we're talking about a bunch of good players. Jahdae Barron, great player. Malachi Starks, great player. I don't know.
I mean, I'm good with Jahad if you are.
I think it makes sense for him.
Jahad feels the safest to me. Like if it's right. What we would do, I would sleep really well knowing that even if Demario Davis has
what you would do.
Another great year in him, that he's still going to get playing time because he's that versatile. So I love that, right? You're not going to be sitting your top 10 pick. He's going to be on the field, whether it's as a pass rusher, whether it's, in coverage on third downs. You need a guy that can really run. He could do all that as well. So he's versatile. Again, people are going to look at it and go, what are you talking about? Inside linebacker in the top 10. You just don't do that. I'm like, well, then who would you have taken? Because these are tough decisions. And I don't think there's a lot of lockdowns. We're only, not even 10 picks in, and we've been struggling for the last 6. So, it's going to be very much eye of the beholder. Yeah, I think Jahad is probably the safest from a talent fit wise, and he's going to get used in his rookie year, even if it's not in what will eventually be his primary role.
Yeah, hour into this podcast, and we're 9 picks in. Very classic for the four of us getting together. We do have to speed up the next hour just to make sure that we get done with everything. Connor, we're up with the Bears at number 10.
Good luck, boys.
You know what I would do, but there's probably going to be a large combo around it.
I mean, we're taking Mason Graham, right?
I don't think that's crazy, but if we went away from the chalk pick, that would be Graham. I would take Mike Green.
Okay, so that was the other one that I was like, okay, we can talk about Mike Green here at number 10 because he's now at least the second best pass rusher, I think, on the team at edge. But I guess they pick at 39 and 41. Yep. So there are going to be good interior defensive linemen and a good running back after. So I don't hate the Mike Green pick. I think Mike Green is obviously an excellent pass rusher for them. So
yeah, I don't think you're not getting a player like this. You're not getting a Mike Green on day 2, in my opinion, or the chances diminish. While, hey, can I go get that D line? I could definitely get that running back. I think it's 39 and 41.
Right.
Yeah, I'd probably take Green here, honestly. And if we didn't, Green has to go off the board to the Falcons at 15, the Bucs at 19. That's probably it. He's not going any further than that.
I feel like talent-wise alone, he's top 20 for sure.
Yeah. I know he had his pro day today, the day we're recording this, and the shuttle and cone were both phenomenal. Like,
I was going to say, did he run faster than Xavier Restrepo?
Probably.
He did the 3 cone. Xavier Restrepo did 740s while... or needed to do 740s. Oh, man, that was... Poor Restrepo. He's a solid player.
I was going to say...
It won't define him.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would go... I know it's like Graham's maybe the chalk pick,
I don't hate this.
Yeah, I would go Green. I want EJ's thoughts on this right away. Like, what do you think?
You don't. I love him as a player.
This? Oh,
no,
okay.
I don't hate it. It's just never going to happen, so I'm not really entertaining it.
But that's...
The Chicago Bears are not going to pick Mike Green. Like, it's
the
just not
thing is,
happen.
though... We do so many predictive mocks, and I love that this exercise is not that. Like, I'm just washing my brain away from, like, I don't care. Exactly. That's the fun in this.
100% is the fun in it. And from a fit
Can I ask
perspective, why what?
Why they won't take Mike Green?
They're
why
never
you're so
going to take
confident in
Mike
that?
Green.
Because of
Character
the off-field
concerns?
stuff?
No way. They didn't take Jalen Carter.
Oh, so yeah, you're just saying like overall, like they're just
in reality,
they're just,
like as a player in a fit in the defense, I love him opposite Sweat.
Okay.
I think if you're just like taking Lego pieces and putting them on the board and saying we need an edge rusher, they absolutely do. He's incredibly talented. He's another guy that once I went back and did a more full study, I came away more impressed. I really like his skills. I kind of have to throw that out the window as a Bears fan because Mike Green is I would be flabbergasted.
Oh, it's good. That's good input. That's good to know.
Yeah.
So you're more saying, yes, Connor, you're correct,
but
also,
they
the
won't
Bears
do
are
it.
incorrect.
Yep. The Bears are the Bears. I'm not going to put a value judgment on, because look, if you own the team, you could do whatever you want. You can employ whoever you want. Like that, we see a wide range, full spectrum of that in the NFL. Mike Green is most likely not going to be a Chicago Bear. Like, it's possible things are changing in Chicago, but I don't think they're changing that much. As a fit, as a player, as a talent, love it. Perfect. Great. Not unhappy with it at all. Is it going to happen in real life? I would be stunned.
Well, it is in this mock.
There we go.
In this alternate universe.
Yeah, Mike Green to the Chicago Bears there at number 10. You guys are on the board now with the San Francisco 49ers.
Oh, bring me John A. Barron.
Oh, the perfect.
He sprinted for it. Yeah, he really is.
Robert Saleh, cover 3 off zone corner.
How do you not?
He's perfect, man. As long as you think that he's worth being selected in this range, I mean, the fit is immaculate.
For me, my range, and this is just my personal opinion, my range on John A. Barron starts at 5. So
this is why I invite.
Now
Trevor
I can't speak for EJ. But my range on Jade starts at 5.
I love the fit.
For EJ, it starts at 5, the 5th round. So that's where it starts for EJ.
Untrue. Trev, you're gonna get me strung up the next time I go to Austin.
Tweener can't play outside. Small. No, just kidding.
No, I like Jade Barron a lot. I think if you think the ceiling is up there with McDuffie, then this is, like you said, lock and key. It's perfect. In terms of other needs, yes, there are other needs, but I also think you can fill those later on. And I don't know that I'm don't want to say positive. There's no positive in the draft. I am pretty darn sure that there's going to be a talent drop-off between Jahdae Barron and the next person you might pick to play this role at their next draft choice. So in terms of value and fit, pretty solid lock.
All right.
Doing it?
Let's do it.
All right. Jahdae Barron at 11 to the San Francisco 49ers. Easy enough. Like we said, very easy plug and play there for what Robert Saleh now wants to do once again as the defense coordinator of that team. Connor, the Dallas Cowboys are up at number 12. We're controlling things. We're in the mind of a Jerry Jones, a dangerous place. Here we are, navigating like the jungles of Tropic Thunder. Is it as simple as Mason Graham because they need to be better along the defensive line? Or are we thinking like...
Yeah, I'd take Graham here.
I think I would too.
Yeah.
I mean, Daniel Jeremiah, one of the GOATs, one of the best. He had Matthew Golden here at 12 in his latest mock draft over Tetro McMillan.
Yeah, I would not do that.
He picked him wide receiver 1 for the Cowboys, which I think, honestly, speaking of that conversation, if Tet makes it to 12, I think he's an excellent complement to what CeeDee Lamb already is, sort of as their Z and their slot receiver. But I would also be going with Graham here.
Does it worry you at all that him and Osa can't, not make each other redundant, but does that even enter your mind?
I don't think so.
No,
because and look, I understand there's physical limitations with Graham, and like you said, like he might not be this like crazy prolific pass rusher, but Michigan did use him in a lot of different alignments.
Oh yeah.
So I wonder, do we have the gaps here? Yeah, so he was mainly a B gap guy, but like he had a bunch of snaps like at nose as well. Dude, he had 38 snaps outside of the tackle too. Like, I just think that you can kind of align Mason Graham basically. And when I say anywhere, I don't mean that he'd be advantageous everywhere, but I think he's good enough of a football player to where you're okay doing that. So
you can play around with it.
Yeah, I wouldn't be too worried about it, and I just think this is a really good defensive lineman that they need to add to the defensive line. So, any other thoughts here, Connor, on any other player? Jalen Walker.
No, I would keep it moving.
Campbell's not here.
No, this is just best player available by a good margin in this spot. The other player I like for them is Calvin Banks, but the talent for Graham is too good.
Yeah, I think you're right. All right, we're going Mason Graham at number 12 for the Dallas Cowboys. 13, Miami Dolphins. Very interested to hear this combo because it feels like mock draft selections are all over the place with the Dolphins. So when you guys sort of look at who is available, what the Dolphins might need, where's the combo go at number 13?
So offensive line right now, Teron Armstead backed up by Patrick Paul.
In theory.
In theory.
Teron Armstead in theory.
In theory. And if not, I assume they want Patrick Paul to be left tackle, right? Liam Eichenberg at left guard is like my doomsday scenario. Aaron Brewer at center, James Daniels at right guard, Austin Jackson at right tackle.
Okay, speaking of doomsday scenarios, what about Matt Dickerson at left defensive end? That's your starter.
Yeah.
That feels like a bigger hole to me than, agreed. They can use upgrades on the offensive line, but you could say that about almost every team. And they went out in free agency and spent money on James Daniels and the not to be mentioned Larry Borum. But I'm looking at Matt Dickerson with nobody backing him up as one of their starting three defensive linemen. Nobody.
Can I throw this out there?
Yeah, go for it.
Because I'm kind of earliest I've even.
I know where you're going, and it's the same
I know.
one.
I think you know where I'm going. I think this is the earliest I've thought about him. Derek Harmon.
Yep. Yeah, it's Harmon or Nolan, depending on if you think Nolan can play that spot, which is kind of a tick outside. Again, Ole Miss moved him around some, but he was more classically a 3-tech. This would be requiring him to be more of a 4-eye, even sometimes 5, depending on how they shift. So I think he can do that physically. I don't have a problem with it, but I think Harmon, from an archetype, is a better fit, and he's also a grown-ass man.
I'm good with it.
It is early, and it'll be the sort of wild hair pick. I don't feel like it is after seeing him in person, early last week at at Eugene and listening to his teammates talk about him, which Trev, for your interest, like that's where I came away with Bucky Irving love last year. Was I like Bucky Irving on tape a lot. And then I went to the pro day and I watched how all those guys, because you remember the Ducks draft class last year was also loaded. All those guys like rallied around, listened to, and kind of followed Bucky Irving. Not necessarily, I mean, Bo had his voice, but like the guy that was stirring the drink at that whole pro day was Bucky Irving, and everybody was down with it. Like he was the energy, he was the let's get it going. Like, and I thought, all right, there's more here than people think there is. The tape's really good, but there's something else you're going to get in your locker room. And it was a different kind of energy. It was much quieter from Harmon, but it was everybody else talking in hushed tones. All of his teammates like, no, that's the dude over there. That's the one. And, telling Paul Bunyan stories about him. So, like, I don't think it's that early. He would be a great fit physically for what they need. And I think it fills a bigger need, frankly, than anything on the offensive line. Because, hey, if Matt Dickerson goes down, he's backed up by, air at this point. So, not great.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
And this team just needs to get tougher. Like, I think he makes them tougher.
Yes.
I'm good with it.
Okay. Derek Harmon here at number 13 for the Miami Dolphins. I'd never thought of that connection before, but I really enjoyed the combo about it. Indianapolis Colts at number 14. They signed Cam Bynum and Charvarius Ward in free agency. Could use another corner, although I wonder how much they still kind of believe in a fully healthy Juju Brents to play on the outside opposite Charvarius Ward.
Right.
They have Kenny Moore in the slot. Linebacker definitely a need for them, but I would be taking Colson Loveland or Malachi Starks over Jalen Walker for this team.
I love Loveland for this team. I think he's such a seamless fit there. They need that middle of the field target. He's a lot bigger than I think we all expected, even with the shoulder injury. Like when he starts, upper body lifting again, he'll probably play at 256, 258.
I mean, that'd be awesome
if
he played it that way.
I think he can. He's got great hands. This is the type of middle of the field target that'll really help their offense, and I think he's got more to give as a blocker. This would be a really, really fun pick for the Colts, and you get one of the honestly a really good player in this draft where you sit here and go like, how many really good players are there? I think Loveland will be a really good NFL player.
I think he's an excellent wide receiver type of tight end. Like pound for pound, even so he's a little bit of the same conversation that we talked about with Brock Bowers.
He's more physical though than like Dalton Kincaid. I see that thrown around a lot. Like, can you go down to Dalton Kincaid? I'm like, that's not even in the same stratosphere when you watch their college tapes.
I would agree with you.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So I wouldn't have those concerns necessarily. I'm good with it. I was basically going to say Loveland or Starks are the two guys that I would lean for.
I can get a strong safety for them on day 2, and they have Bynum probably playing free. Yeah, that would be my thought. I would draft Starks to play free.
Yeah, them and 12 other teams are all going to draft Xavier Watts in the second round, like every fan base tells me. Oh, no, well, I mean, we don't need to save. We'll just wait for Xavier Watts. We'll just wait for Xavier Watts. Yep. Well, guess what? Yep. One team gets him. The other team shit out of luck.
Yeah, the other 11 are getting Billy Bowman.
Look, you're not going to get any Billy Bowman slander from me. Not around these parts. No, you're really not. Okay, Colts 11 to the Colts at number 14. Now you guys are on the clock with the Falcons at 15. Pretty good board for the Falcons, honestly. Malachi Starks, Will Johnson, James Pierce, Donovan Ezaraku. We got some pass rushers still available. What are you guys doing here at 15?
So, Eej, my first instincts, like, yes, obviously pass rush is a thing, right?
Yeah.
If you want to look at Ezaraku, if you want to look at Braden Swinson, it's probably the top. The very first time I would ever consider him would be at 15. And even then, it still feels a little on the early side, right? You could think about a Kenneth Grant, but at the same time, you have a 33-year-old left tackle who's essentially going into the season before his last year of his contract. We don't really have a long-term plan. And I would love to just take care of that now so I don't have to worry about it later with a young quarterback and Kelvin Banks is on the board. Am I crazy for doing the same thing the Jets did, which take a tackle a year early so like we're okay next year?
How do you think they feel about Ryan Newsiel as their pivot? Like,
so you're thinking like Gray Zabel?
It's
I wouldn't hate
for
it.
me, but like I also think in terms of, we had this discussion earlier, like 2 years from now when Gray Zabel is a very solid interior player that everybody's talking about, oh, what's he going to get for his next contract? Like, I think you're going to be good. And I also think the tackle class might be a little bit better. I like the tackle options, to be clear. Like, if you're going to get one in waiting this year, I don't have any problem with it because I like those players. But again, as I look at the team building strategy, we're already basically through free agency. There's still some players to be signed, but their depth for the most part, do you think they're really happy with Ryan Newsiel as their center? Like,
I don't
with the
think
potential of a not rookie quarterback, but a half rookie quarterback.
Well,
starting.
That's my worry, right? Is but like we're talking about the potential for a guy to be a new center for them who hasn't called protections before.
Right.
With a young quarterback who I don't think called protections.
I don't love the mix there, but in terms of need, I think it's a bigger need. Then I would go pass rush after that, and for me, it's probably Pierce or Zraku, right?
I would go Ezraku out of those two.
Oh, don't you do it.
I'm cool with Ezraku if you are.
Don't you dare do it.
Oh, if he doesn't want us to do
over
it?
Tampa.
Yeah. All right, we'll get our center in the second round. We'll go as
on my own show.
That's right.
Donovan Ezraku, let's go, baby. You are an Atlanta Falcon.
I love Ezraku. I think Raheem Morris is absolutely going to love him, and absolutely I do not have any ill will towards Raheem. I've been rooting for him for a long time. The Bucs absolutely screwed him over when they made him a head coach when they did, making that jump and then basically having ownership. And the general manager tell him just win with crap when you're in Tampa, when he was the head coach around 2010 and overachieved that second year that was there. I know went to the front office and basically said like, hey, we will not do this again, actually. And they're like, nope, just do it again with a bad team. And then
just
it was
run it
bad,
back.
and then he got fired, and he was a scapegoat for it. So I'm very happy to see him as a head coach again. I think Donovan Ezraku plays perfectly with his 3-4 scheme, and he could be a really good outside linebacker. I love Ezraku. I speak super highly of him because I've loved everything that I've heard about him, the way that the team speaks about him, the way that I heard him talk at the podium, not lying about how to be a great pass rusher and sort of explain the why about why he is good. So I think he would be perfect for Atlanta, which Connor puts us up on the clock with the Arizona Cardinals at number 16. I also think this is a really good scenario here for the Cardinals. Will Johnson is still here.
Right.
James Pierce is still here. Kenneth Grant, Walter Nolan. If we wanted Kelvin Banks to play as an interior guy for them, give them flexibility when Jonah Williams' contract is up at the end of this season, like this is, pretty close to what would be a dream scenario here for the Cardinals. Do you have a leaning one way or the other? Which way did you go?
Yeah, I'd go Will Johnson or Jalen Walker in this spot.
I would also I would pick Will Johnson.
Yeah, I consistently mock Will Johnson to them at this spot because they're getting an injury discount, but they need a number one corner, and he can be that for them. Size, ball skills, physical player. This would kind of change the look of their secondary, in my opinion.
Yeah, they. I just really started working on. We're gonna have team specific top 100 big boards over at PFF, and so I've sort of started doing that and gathering a lot of the data for that. And for Arizona, they played a lot more. Now, this might have been personnel-based, but they played a lot more like zone coverage than I thought they were going to. They live in nickel a lot, so they're going to want a lot of corners on their team who could play a lot. So it's not like, oh, okay, well, we got 3 guys, so we feel good about it. Like, they would absolutely take a Will Johnson. He plays, I think, the type of secondary style that they like. He could play for you in press. He could play for you in off. And so to me, I think he is their CB1, and I like the cornerback depth that they have after that. Gives them a lot of versatility to play a lot more defensive backs on the field. So yeah, Will Johnson makes a ton of sense for me to the Cardinals, so we're going to go with him there at number 16. Before we get to 17, giving you guys a little bit extra time to think about it, for the Cincinnati Bengals, to all the parents who are out there watching and listening to this podcast, I got a question. What does your child's future success look like for you? Maybe, it's them starting their own business, getting to be their own boss. Maybe it's them traveling the world. Maybe it's them just living a comfortable lifestyle, whatever that looks like. You guys can help them achieve that with a kids investment account from Fabric by Gerber Life. By contributing to your child's future today, you can help give them a means to pursue their dreams, both big and small. Fabric by Gerber Life was designed by parents for parents to make it easy to plan for and manage your family's financial path. With this kids investment account from Fabric, you can start investing in your child's future today. Kids can't invest while they're minors, but this kids investment account allows you to invest on their behalf, gives their investments a lot more time to grow. Whole thing is online, very easy to set up, and the funds can be used for basically anything. When they're kids, it's music classes, it's sporting events, it's tutors, it's tuition, and then when they're older, maybe it is helping them buy that first house, that first car, or even starting a business. Starts with just $20, no contribution limits to it. Tax advantages, funds are SIPC insured up to $500,000, plus there's no commission fees, just that low flat monthly maintenance fee. You can join the thousands of parents who trust Fabric to help protect their family. Start investing in your child's future today at meetfabric.com/stock exchange. Meetfabric.com/stock exchange. MEET fabric.com/stock exchange. Portfolios are managed by Fort Washington Investment Advisors Incorporated. Additional services are provided by Apex Clearing Corporation. All investing is subject to risk. Learn more at meetfabric, MEET fabric.com. Meet Fabric, MEAT Fabric, is going to be the name of whichever defensive lineman these gentlemen give to the Cincinnati Bengals at number 17. So, guys, what are we thinking about here at 17? Not to pigeonhole you. You can pick whoever you want, but just a little
best wide receiver on the board.
First things first.
There it is. Yeah. Got to do
God
it.
Damn it, EJ.
Anytime you can live in 10 personnel as a base, you got to do it. You just got to do it.
Oh, man.
So Xavier Restrepo?
Yeah, right.
Oh,
After
boy.
today. Sure enough.
No, I said no more slander. Come on.
Okay. All right.
No,
sorry.
so while you were doing the ad read, I watched the 40 that he ran, and yeah, that's 483, folks.
Yeah, it's real. It's
That's real. That's real.
Tough.
So
We got to pour one out.
I will say this team has to take guard. Like, they just do.
Right, but do they have to
Arguably
do it in the
worst
first
guard.
round?
So I'm not a Booker guy this early, but I am a Banks guy this early, and I think there's a universe where he can do left guard for them for a little bit, and then once the Orlando Brown contract runs out, you just kick him out to left tackle and draft a new guard. Wow. And if Orlando gets hurt, okay, cool, we have our left tackle.
Huge brain move right there.
Yeah, interesting. Because I, too, was looking at the guard list going, well, they do have to pick a guard, but they don't have to do it right now. All right, let's do our, sort of first round, second round for them. Because they are at...
So if you're doing Banks now and you still have to get pass rusher or just interior
or
D-line,
DT,
period.
yeah, I was going to say.
I mean, we could take... God, we do Alfred Collins mid-second?
Yeah, for sure.
Omar's probably not going to be there. The
Banks...
JTT might be there.
Yeah, the Banks leverage makes this conversation more interesting because I was definitely thinking of it as DT first and then guard second just because of where the guards were. But if you're thinking of Banks as a guard, it's more interesting to me. Because I was looking at like Kenneth Grant or Walter Nolan as, best available options for what I think would help them. They certainly need a lot of help on the inside of the defensive line. Do I think
what
Banks
I worry
is a
about
better
is like
player?
I worry about the same thing that we talked about with Xavier Watts, where it's like every single mock draft or every single fan that does mock drafts is just like, oh yeah, I'm going to get Tate Ratledge on day 2.
Yeah.
And it's like, are you going to get Tate Ratledge on day 2? Like, are you positive? Or do you just want to take care of it and get it out of the way and then see which one of the million defensive linemen in this class are actually going to be there on day 2?
Yeah, if their plan is to eventually move back Banks to tackle, I think that's a fine plan because I think he is one of the tackles that can play tackle in this draft because that's the other move that every fan base makes is, he can't play tackle. He's instantly a guard. We could talk about that at length, which is not a shoe-in. But I actually think Banks has tackle talent. So if they're going to move him back out, then sure, I could see it. Ooh.
And it insulates you from injury because right now, if Orlando Brown gets hurt,
right?
Congrats.
No.
Devin Cochran apparently is who their backup left tackle is.
Apparently. I love that.
So,
yeah, again, It's unorthodox, but I could see it working because I also do think he is one of those tackles that could play guard very well with his physical makeup. When you watch his tape, he's got a lot of power. He's good on the move. He can hit targets in space. So, yeah, wouldn't have been my first thought, but at the same time, we're pushing a lot of these defensive tackles down, and there's a lot more of them. I looked at my number that I had ranked and number that I still had to rank this weekend, and it was equal. And I've done a lot of defensive tackles. So it's a very deep class that way. You could convince me because I like Banks as a player a lot. I'm going to put the little asterisks in there that they have to move him to tackle next year. Like anybody's going to come back and read that note. But
all right, let's do it then.
Oh, the addicts will remember.
Oh, good.
I'll get a comment 1 year from this date, and I'll just be looking at the YouTube Creator Studio, and somebody will be like, "I'm here, baby. I remembered."
That's right. They
I'm
have to
calling
move
out
him.
EJ.
That's right. It's in the contract.
Right.
They can't keep him at guard.
So you're taking Kelvin Banks here at 17?
We are.
Sure. I don't hate it there.
I don't think I've seen that anywhere before, so at least it's something.
I haven't even thought that before. So
look at this mock draft we got cooking here. Look at this. I'm just scrolling down. This is a unique mock draft, which is the whole point of the Collab mock draft series. We're just starting off with an absolute banger, and I love to see it. Now we're up on the board at number 18 with the Seattle Seahawks. Oh, speaking of interior offensive line. Connor, can I interest you in one Gray Zabel?
Yeah, absolutely. That's where my brain went immediately.
I don't know where else they go.
Can play all three spots for you, I think, here, which is really valuable to them. Zabel's such a rock-solid talent. He's played everywhere on the offensive line. We believe he can convert to center if they need him to. This is an easy one.
The only other position that I would probably consider is like linebacker.
Yeah.
At this point for them.
They need to. This interior has to be better, dude. It has to.
I mean,
if they don't get help on the
receiver,
interior offensive line and they think Darnold is going to do anything,
right? This is like non-negotiable. I think you need to use two of those first three picks on interior offensive line.
People don't realize how much Gino made chicken salad out of chicken shit with the offensive line last year.
Yeah.
Well,
I do.
You're in the area, so
I do.
You get it. But
yep.
I think this is. I'm just like thinking of. I don't even like if Colson Loveland's on the board here. I think it's intriguing, right? Because you upgrade tight end, and it sort of gives you that like bigger bodied guy that they don't have with Cooper Kupp and Jack Smith and Jigba. They have MVS who comes over from being there with Kubiak and had a lot of success when they were in New Orleans for that little stint that was there when they signed him. But it's interior offensive line. Gray Zabel to me is somebody who could play center or guard for you at the NFL. He could start at both of those spots. So basically, wherever you need to play him to get your best five out there, to me, that one makes a ton of sense. So I'm going Zabel. We're going Zabel at number 18 here for the Seattle Seahawks. Now the Bucs are on the board at number 19. Good luck making me happy with Ezraku off the board 4 picks earlier.
So I look at this Tampa roster.
I hate it. No.
He hates it immediately.
If you want to feel better, just look at the Bucs roster because it's kind of stacked, boys. Not gonna lie, this is a really, really stacked roster. I was like, do they need an offensive line? Not really.
Nope.
Receiver? Not really. Like tight end? You could but like not now, right?
Been told they
running
like
back, they're fine. Like they're not gonna take Omari in here. Like why would they?
No.
They got the Hassan Reddick deal as like a Band-Aid, but I just look at defensive line in general, not necessarily because they're desperate, but just because they can, right? So I'm kind of between.
Logan Hall's in the last year of his deal. I don't think he will be on the team next year.
And that was a big reason why I was thinking Kenneth Grant.
Oh.
Because him and Vita just making a wall of humanity next to each other. Kalijah's your changeup. And then you still have Reddick coming off the edge. Yaya we like a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, there's your 5-man service because this team plays 5-man services a lot with Kenneth Grant as a 5-tech or Vita as a 5-tech, whatever, whichever one you want. Kalijah is anywhere from a 3 out to a 5. The other one playing nose or a shade. And then you got Yaya and Reddick as your edges. the ageless wonder back there at linebacker. Am I off base here, EJ?
No, I think I'm a little bit with Trev in terms of like the what ifs from earlier up the board. Like if Jihad Campbell's there and it gets to the Bucs pick, like run it to the podium.
Sprinting.
Like trip over yourself and break something, that kind of speed. Pierce is interesting, but in terms of a player that they can probably develop as well. And look, we sat with Kenneth Grant, Shrine Bowl, did an interview with him. He's a great kid. He's got a ton of potential. He's already, I don't want to say potential like he's made no plays. He's made a bunch of plays already. He has to be more consistent in the way that he applies all those gifts, but he's stacked with physical gifts. And Tampa has shown a real ability to maximize players with physical gifts. And so in terms of a landing spot that both helps the team and helps the player, I don't mind it at all. It's just whether you kind of want to go inside or outside. It's like, do you think James Pierce is a better fit? Do you think Kenneth Grant's a better fit? And, the way you're describing it is chess pieces in terms of being able to rotate some out and give yourself decent looks. I don't think there's a better place to go in general than defensive line in general because, like you said, the offensive line's really good. Like linebacker could definitely use more depth, but there's not a linebacker here in terms of being the choice.
From everything that I know, they would take Jalen Walker if he's on the board at number 19.
Yeah, that makes
the board
sense.
fell like this. I would.
What?
Yeah, they would take Jalen. From what I have heard. Now, obviously, like I'm not like, hey, Jason, who are you taking? And he's like, we take Jalen Walker.
Sure. I can see it though.
They learned nothing from Devin White, is what you're saying.
Look, man.
Look, man.
Look,
it's not my opinion.
When I was told that they like Jalen Walker, it's the first thing that came out of my mouth. But
like,
but they need a linebacker, and I think it just from everything that I see, I mean, just shout out to two of the best. I mean, DJ and Dane, they're two very plugged in draft analysts, and both of these guys are very confident in leaning very heavily into Jalen Walker. Well, I don't want to say very confident because like Dane himself is like, hey, it's a big, who knows after the first two in this draft. So I want to be fair to him, but leaning into Jalen Walker, I think he's leaning into Jalen Walker not only because he sees the potential of him, but also because he probably hears from around the league that somebody's going to take a chance on him pretty high. And I think that Jalen Walker, coming from the program that he comes from, being coached under Kirby Smart, being as versatile as he's been over the last 2 years, being a coach's kid growing up, like I just think the NFL is going to love the intangibles of what Walker brings to the table. So again, I would be very wary of it, especially on a team that needs linebacker so desperately, and you're asking Jalen Walker to like be Levante David, and maybe David's just an unbelievable mentor for him, but like that's a tough ask in my opinion. So
if that's true and he's going to go top 20, I'll let somebody else be right.
That's exactly where I'm at with Jalen. I would let somebody else be right here with him, but I do think you guys are onto something with Kenneth Grant. I think that would be an excellent pick for them. I really do.
The only other name I would consider is probably Malachi.
Yeah, but the issue with Malachi, and I love Malachi, don't get me wrong, they could absolutely take Malachi, but they
already got Antoine, they got Izzy, and like they don't need him.
That's the thing, and they're very comfortable. I've been told that they're sort of comfortable with Tyke Smith as well, potentially moving back to safety. So it's like Tyke Smith and Antoine Winfield Jr. is their safety duo. Izzy in sort of like the change-up to be able to play nickel and backup safety. So maybe if they really believe in Malachi to be able to play like slot as well, perhaps they are okay with it at 19, because I love him as a player. So that's the other guy that I would throw out there. But with no Will Johnson, with no Jahdae Barron, with obviously no Travis Hunter on the board to hit outside corner, I would say Kenneth Grant or Malachi Starks, and I think that you guys are sort of right on it with that.
Yeah, and I mean Malachi.
Wait, who did you guys pick at the end of all of that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think it comes down to Kenneth Grant, because if you're talking about all those players in the secondary and saying, well, we could shuffle all these, you've got plenty, right? That's not the need. You don't have the same discussion necessarily at the top.
Why don't we then just go with Kenneth Grant, because he's the rarest human, and then we figure out the rest on day 2.
Fair. I think that's totally fair.
Yeah.
That
all
does
right,
not
Kenneth
upset
Grant
me.
to the Bucs at 19.
Does that upset you, Trev? Because we were trying.
No. I think you guys did good. You came down to the two players that you really should have been deciding between, in my opinion. And Kenneth Grant does make a lot of sense because Logan Hall has been underwhelming. I think they're going to move on from him no matter what. And it is very ideal because like they brought back Greg Gaines, and like Greg Gaines, they probably shouldn't have brought him back. And so to be able to play Vita Vea and Kenneth Grant next to each other, and then like you said, use Kalijah Kancey as like a chess piece, just like the ultimate compliment. That's a way better scenario than asking Kancey to play on early downs at all times because you don't have anybody else that could do it. So I do like that move. Denver Broncos up at number 20. Connor, anybody standing out for you? I got one name that I love here that's still on the board for the Broncos.
I like Amari and Hampton.
Okay, so that's fine. Like that's a baseline where I think that makes sense.
Yep. I love we've reached the part of the mock draft where Omarion Hampton is fine.
No, I think that's good. Like this is a good pick. I'm wondering if I could convince you that Walter Nolan could be the better pick for them, and then you hit running back a little bit later in a somewhat deep running back class because Malcolm Roach, Zach Allen, John Franklin Meyer, all unrestricted free agents next season.
Yeah.
They're going to bring back Zach Allen, but they just signed DJ Jones.
Right.
John Franklin Meyer wants out. Malcolm Roach, they might not have the money to be able to bring him back. And especially if you draft Walter Nolan, he's not only in the system this year as a rotational player, he steps in full-time right away, and you get way ahead of the curve on the defensive line, and you make sure the defense is still good for a couple of years after a really good signing period for them. So Walter Nolan is also who I would throw out there.
Yeah, completely viable. I find myself kind of going the other way sometimes with the Broncos where I get an offensive playmaker at 20, and then I look to capitalize on the depth of the D-line class later because that player will be a rotational guy this year. Sure. They hope can grow into more. Like I don't think it's out of the range of outcomes that, I mean, this class is so deep. An Omar Norman lot might be there for you in round 3 that you could rotate in as a pass rusher. Or there's a lot of different names, honestly, across the board. Somebody has to fall out of this deep defensive line group. And I know people will say the same thing about running back. I think Hampton's going to be 50 times better than the running backs they're going to be looking at beyond this pick, unless they wanted to move up from their day 2 selections. But Nolan's an incredible athlete. He put it together this year. You are getting ahead by 1 year. I just think Hampton would be a star for Sean Payton, an absolute star. And I'm just confident in the D-line I can get on day 2 for this team.
I think that Jared Ivey from Ole Miss, Alfred Collins, Vernon Broughton, Josh Farmer. I am almost 100% sure one of those players
easily
makes it to 51 where they're picking in the second round.
Oh, I think more than that. But
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
If you guarantee me even one of them and you tell me, okay, we go with Armarian here at 20 and then we're getting one of those defensive linemen, I'm okay with that. So I bullied you into taking Tyler Warren at number 6 for the Raiders. So I'm giving you this one of Armarian going 20 to the Denver Broncos. So there we go. Now we're even. You guys are up with the Pittsburgh Steelers at number 21.
We have the opportunity to do the funniest thing.
What's that?
Take Shedeur.
Yep.
I knew it. I could tell by your face.
Yeah, I mean, look, man.
Yep.
I mean, look, man. We got no quarterback. Like, come on.
I will say, I don't think anybody here right now has a first-round grade on Shedeur out of the 4 of us, right?
That's right.
I know. Yeah.
If there was a situation that he could go to,
that's right,
in the back end of the first round, considering all the work they've done on the offensive line the last few years.
Sure.
We like Tomlin as a coach, the investment at receiver, bringing in DK, having Pickens. It could work.
I think it's going to work better than what they've got right now, right?
I think he'll be more successful in Pittsburgh than with what the Giants have
That's
right now.
That's a totally fair take.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Or the Browns.
And just as a bonus, Hawkeyes might keep working for you.
That's true. He's a Steelers fan who is
he's a diehard Steelers fan. He's been
thing.
suffering. He has been going through it with all the quarterback rumors. But from the just pure football standpoint that we just laid out, the team could be successful. He is not going to be expected to carry this team from day one? Is he going to be expected to play from day one? Yeah, and I think he can do that with the weapons around him. They've spent time building the offensive line. They've spent time building up their weapons. Again, they can add another running back if they want to the whatever it is, 5 or 6 they already have on their roster later on down in this draft. They can do that. There's plenty of depth for that. They're not going to be able to get another quarterback that does that. So while I don't necessarily think overall it's the best fit, this is probably the best marriage of convenience that they're going to find in the next couple of months, unless they're just truly going to punt to next year on quarterback.
And it also means like they wouldn't have to do the Aaron thing.
Correct.
They wouldn't have
Addition
to
by
do the Kirk
subtraction.
Cousins thing.
Yep.
Yeah. And like,
all right. My only other counterpoint, my only other take would be take Starks, play him as your nickel third safety right now, and as they rotate out either Elliott or Fitzpatrick, then you've got Malachi Starks, who's a great player and much more highly rated in this spot. We're to the point where anytime you pick Malachi Starks at this point, you're getting a player above the grade. So, like, that would be my counterpoint.
How about this? With that counterpoint, let's do the package then. Malachi Starks.
Exactly. No, there is no package. You can't. No, I mean, unless you really believe
they don't have a second round pick. So.
Shit.
Right.
No,
exactly.
There is no
You're not
package.
picking a quarterback in the second round.
Yeah, so you got to remember with them.
Yeah, no. So there is no package. It's that, or we're not doing.
You can't
that
even throw
and
Xavier
we're
Watts
punting.
out there, like in theory.
The Watts theory.
Yeah,
they're
always
outside
have
of the Watts Venn diagram. They're not in that. Okay, that works. No, then I would. Why not? Like, I think it's gonna bring a bunch of hope to Steelers fans that they don't have right now. It gives them a chance to win this year. Like
hope and existential dread. A little bit of both.
You can't get rid of the second part of that. That is always. I have friends that are Steelers fans.
Amen.
That is going to be part of their experience from now until whatever, no matter what they do. So, at least give them a quarterback.
All right, let's do it.
All right. Shadur Sanders coming off the board here at 21 to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Los Angeles Chargers on the board at number 22. All right, we're going to try to knock out these next 10 picks within like 15 to 20 minutes.
Okay.
Good luck.
Might be the greatest upset. Of March Madness that we see this year. We'll see. Connor,
Cinderella story.
Are you leaning anywhere here at number 22 here with the Chargers?
Man, I'd really like Shamar Stewart on this team. I really would.
Ooh.
Yeah, just because I think you can play him at different alignments on this front, and he gives them some edge pass rush across from Khalil Mack. The Bosa's out the door, obviously. If they feel like they can get the best out of Pierce, this is where I'd start to consider him, although I'm lower on Pierce than a lot of people. There's no way I would take him in the top 20. This is even a little rich for me. But if they just want pure stand-up edge rusher, obviously we can go back to your Walter Nolan Trevor.
Yeah.
I'm also really high on Nick Scorton. If they just want a traditional edge pass rusher, like Scorton to me is the third best edge in this class, where I'd have also no problem taking him here with the same theory as, I was talking about Stewart a little bit. So I'm just looking to add to their front.
So those are a lot of really good defensive line additions there. Matthew Golden and Luther Burden are still on the board. Do you think about either of those guys given their wide receiver room is Ladd McConkey, Quentin Johnston, in theory, Mike Williams, who they let walk 2 years ago and were correct in doing so, and now have signed him again because they literally have no other options. Do you think about Matthew Golden or Luther Burden here, or do you just say, hey, we're going to try to hit wide receiver later?
Yeah, I'm hitting wide receiver later. Let me use a premium pick on a trench player, which is pretty.
They do have a lot of picks. First, second, third, fourth, fifth.
Yep.
4th, 6th.
Yeah, I'll take 2 wide receivers and see what sticks later on if I need to, but I want to get a legit trench prospect here at 22 with.
I think I'd take Walter Nolan.
Both tight ends off the board. I have no problem with that either.
Yeah, if you're giving me my pick, I think I'm taking Walter Nolan.
Let's roll with Nolan.
All right, we're gonna roll with Nolan because losing Poona Ford is gonna be tougher than I think people are willing to admit.
Oh, I mean, without a doubt, he did so much for their run defense last year, which I don't think Nolan magically fixes, but he's so freaky that it still brings a presence to your defensive line.
No, but Nolan is just unreal strong, and he did have an elite run defense grade last year.
Yeah, I think he's a good gap shooter.
What I love the most about Nolan, though, I mean, the motor runs
He plays hard.
miles an hour.
Plays hard. Practiced hard at the Senior Bowl.
You don't get a lot of you don't get a lot of trench players that truly give you their all like that every snap. So I'm cool with it. Walter Nolan to the Chargers here at number 22. That's what we're going with. You guys are up at the Packers. Oh, thank God.
EJ, I'm thinking forfeit the pick, right?
Let the time run out.
All right,
Let the time run out.
Take too long. All right, Minnesota, they're up real quick. Minnesota, you can steal.
That's right. I tried that one last year. Didn't work then either, so I think we're on the hook for it. But I helped out a friend of mine who is a Packers fan, and he was looking for draft selections. And he said, look, I know you're way deeper into the draft than I am. Just give me 3 names, and it was the 3 positions of need that are listed on PFF: wide receiver, edge, or corner. And I think there's an argument, like, how do you feel about James Pierce here? Like, with their scheme and with their current personnel is the first one. I think that's probably the kind of the obvious one, or Scorton, depending on how you feel about either one of those players. And then I really think you got to look at wide receiver speed. You got to get somebody that can get deep, because Christian Watson's not going to be healthy at the start of the year. And that's a big part of their offense, the way that they've structured it with the quarterback, with the coach, like with their play calling. They want to set up and take those shots, and right now they got a whole bunch of guys that are not necessarily great at paying that off. So do you look at a wide receiver that could do that, or do you look at one of those edge players? And I'll just toss that to you.
I'm going to suggest something you're going to hate.
Oh, I love when you
Dude, I'm a Bears fan. I'm probably going to take it.
No, that's why you're going to hate
I
this.
know.
They have
All right.
They have
always
9
do
receivers
this.
on the roster right now, and 6 are going to be free agents after this season. So
Yeah.
it's not just about, they need speed. It's like they need bodies that are going to be here for more than 12 calendar months, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Out of the guys that are on the board, I think Emeka fits them the best.
Oh, yeah, you're right. I would hate that deeply, for sure.
So,
no, I mean, he's the best, but I don't think he's the speed threat, right? He's the best receiver, like, no question. Like, let's get that out of the way. He's the best receiver that's on the board at this point.
I agree with you. That's not popular, though, by the way.
Oh, really?
I think everybody looks at Matthew Golden now as...
Oh, that's interesting. I don't dislike Golden. I actually like Golden better for this spot. A, because it's not a Mecca, and B, because Golden's faster. But
hold on, there's no sabotage here.
Do you think he plays faster? Because I don't. I think they play the exact same speed.
I think 80% of the time, 85% of the time, you're correct, and then 10-15% of the time,
it's nice when you have that in your back pocket. Yeah, I think that's fair.
Yeah, and I mean, there's another wide receiver that Brett and I are going to talk about later today that I think is exactly the same way, that timed really fast, and when you look at tape, you get this kind of, we were talking about roller coasters earlier, you get this roller coaster of like, I think he should be faster there, and then he opens it up and you're like, oh, see, I knew it, you are really fast. You just have to play that way all the time.
Now you have to tell me who it is.
Royals. Jalen Royals. He timed really fast. He's got good size, and you sort of don't see it, and then he opens it up and you're like, oh geez, there it is. Like,
interesting.
He can absolutely wheel in the open field, and I think a lot of people just kind of underrate that because they maybe didn't watch a game where he did that. And again, he doesn't do it all the time. But in terms of speed, like, Golden would be the speed option. Emeka would be the best overall option, but they have a lot of Emeka lights on the roster right now, and I realize if you're planning 12 months in advance, how do you feel about the edge value here for the
I would consider Braden Swinson.
So would I, but I would also hate that. So anyways, I think he plays very well in their system. It is actually one of the names I gave my Packers buddy to look at because I think he fits them physically really well. I don't know, it just comes down to kind of coin flip of like, do you want to go wide receiver speed or you want to try and get that later? Because it is available. There are faster guys later in this draft, so you could do that later.
I would probably do Swinson now and the receiver day 2.
Woohoo!
Okay.
Getting Braden Swinson love in the first round? Let's go, fellas.
Yeah, I like Braden Swinson too. I don't love the fact that he's going to the Packers, but they do that every year to me at least a couple of times. And it is a little bit early. I mean, I know there's going to be a lot of people in the comments that are like, what about Scarton? Pierce was still on the board and they picked Swinson. I get it, but Like he fits them to a T.
It's only early if you don't think that he is worth being selected here. If you do, then guess what? It's not early.
Yeah, for sure. Takes one team.
All right.
And it took this team of GMs to go get him.
All right, there we go. Braden Swinson, the edge rusher from LSU, who is, I feel like a fan favorite on day 2, getting into the day 1 conversation here for the Green Bay Packers. That's a new one. Very curious to hear what Packers fans think about that one. Somebody who has an extremely high pass rush win rate and a pass rush grade against true pass sets, as you guys can see on the screen right there. Minnesota Vikings up at number 24. Okay, Connor, I want to hear who you think should be the pick here because I have one that I feel pretty strongly about at 24.
Do you feel strongly about Starks?
I feel very strongly about Malachi Starks.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, obviously, he's your free safety of the future. You could use him.
He is your do-it-all safety.
He's your do-it-all safety here. They need help in the secondary. The combo to me was either take the talent that is Starks, who's the best talent, or if you want to dial in on a true corner, I would be talking Azareye'h Thomas and Savone Ravel. I'm going to take the talent of Starks in this pick.
I would take Starks again because Josh Metellus, last year of his contract, Harrison Smith,
14th
could
season,
very easily retire next year, and they have no one behind him. And if you tell me that Brian Flores gets Malachi Starks as the chess piece to play on the back end of his defense, we win.
Yeah, so he shouldn't fall to this pick. So the fact he did, we kind of got to pounce on it here.
And we've talked about it before. Like the Vikings would have to love a player to pick them at 24 with only 4 picks in this draft. So they are very likely a trade back spot. But here with Starks falling to them, I am very okay with it and him going here at number 24. Very curious about this one.
EJ, if this pick is anybody other than Josh Simmons, I'm setting myself on fire in the middle
on the show.
Well, we don't want.
You know what to do,
EJ. Can we get some super chats? Super chats in the chat for Bread on Fire. Bread on Fire super chats.
Cognac and a Zippo.
We can now
do
retire.
Not fucking test me.
That's right.
And can we get some nonstop fire emojis in the chat, please? Thank you.
We will put you out with Malort. Have no fear. No, Josh Simmons, if his knee is healthy, is the best tackle in this draft. Like it's not really close from a talent standpoint for me, and especially as a left tackle, if you're making that an even smaller divide. Clearly the best guy. They have to be comfortable with the medicals. If they're not, I would still say you have to stick with tackle because I think JT's. I think CJ's a great player. Like I don't want Stroud getting hurt. There you go. So even if they're not comfortable with the Simmons medicals, I would be looking at like Josh Connerly here or Donovan Jackson if you think he's the next left tackle.
If you take Connerly over Simmons,
look, if they've got him red flag,
you have half the power here.
No, I'm saying Simmons, if he's healthy, I'm with you 100%. Stamp that. But if the Texans have already looked at it, which we're never going to know, and say, ooh, yeah, we're super
I don't care if he has a
knee.
Fucking peg leg. He's the pick.
Okay. All right. Then we're done. Then this discussion is over.
Josh Simmons, come on down.
Josh Simmons with a peg leg. Come on down.
What's that sound on the floor? Is someone wearing heels?
He's gonna line up at left tackle with one of those like boot like carts that you have, where like you're like
the little scooter
half of your leg.
Yeah, for sure.
Still an upgrade.
First player to pitch a shutout in a motorized scooter, Josh Simmons.
It's the arm length. It's the arm.
Just kidding. Oh, Rams at 26.
Simmons is a great tackle. Again, we talked about this in previous years, and it's the draft genie, right? You get 3 wishes from the draft genie. One of my wishes a couple of years ago was that Puka would be healthy because I thought Puka was a great receiver when healthy, and sure enough, that played out. I hope one of my draft wishes is that Josh Simmons' knee is good to go.
Would be great.
That would be amazing because he's a great player. He's super skilled playing left tackle.
Rams on the clock here at number 26. Your mind go anywhere here, Connor?
This is where I'd be pretty comfortable taking Jalen Walker.
Ooh,
right?
Yeah.
I mean, the middle of the field on defense needs help for them. The speed and violence he plays with. This is where I would take that swing, and why not if you're the Rams all the way at 26?
I like this a lot because right now it's Omar Speights, undrafted free agent, all due respect. Nate Landman, who they signed in free agency, but it's not like he was a break-the-bank type of signing for them. That's basically it. I mean, Tony Fields is second. Elias Neal, like that's their linebacker room right now. So Jalen Walker would start immediately for this team, and I actually have faith in the Rams to get the most out of him.
Me too.
To use him in a lot of ways and play for a really good defense here. So I feel like we on this show like get labeled as the Jalen Walker like haters, like we think he's a bum and he like can't play in the league, and that's absolutely not true. We just push back on a lot of the top 5, top 10, top 15 hype for them. But here at 26 for the Rams, I think he is perfectly in the conversation. Would be a great pick for the Rams here at number 26. So I'm with you, buddy. I'm all over this one. So
if he's going to succeed somewhere, it's going to be
What'd
there.
You say?
If he's going to succeed somewhere, it's going to be
Yeah,
there.
I love the fit.
Yeah, me too. You guys are up with the Ravens at 27.
Is it crazy?
What are you thinking, EJ?
Receiver again for this team, EJ?
I don't know that it's crazy. I don't think it's crazy. I would rather talk about receivers than talk about guards at this point, because I know a lot of people, especially folks, in the comments, are going to be like, Tyler Booker's right there. And you and I are both like, hey, Tyler Booker is an amazing power guard. In a phone booth, he is unmatched. But get him outside that phone booth, which is a very small radius, and he is more than matched because he's just not going to get there.
Isn't there a movie that like takes place in a phone booth where like
It's literally called phone booth.
It's called
where
phone.
Colin
Is it
Farrell's
called
getting
phone?
shot
Where,
at?
where somebody's like at gunpoint and they can't leave the phone booth?
Yeah.
That's right.
That's Tyler Booker. That's him.
There's a Photoshop to be made there.
If he leaves the phone booth,
There's your
he's
thumbnail.
cooked.
There's your thumbnail. So I don't really want to talk about guards. I mean, I do want to talk about guards, but it would be a second round conversation with me. And I think, especially given their offense, I'd like to see some more mobility. It gives them, it gives Monken more options.
Tate Ratledge is like the guy for them.
Well, I mean, there's Tate Ratledge, there's Savai Nea, there's a lot of guards that can move really well. And I think they're better fits than Booker is here. So I don't really want to talk about guard here. We can talk about edge, right? And they have a very particular type at edge. Secondary, I mean, we can talk about secondary as well. But who are you thinking in receiver while I'm looking up some other options?
I mean, again, until Emeka gets taken, I'm just going to be like,
oh, if you give
work.
Emeka Ibuka, like, that's the most DaCosta move ever, right? We say this about the Ravens every year. We get done and we're like, how did they get that player? Somebody should have picked him before he gets to the Ravens. You give me Zay and Emeka? Get out of here.
Great. It's great.
That's like overpowered. That's clearly OP.
But also, I do see your point on edge as well, right? So it's like, what are the edges available? So
we got James Pierce, Michael Williams, Jamar Stewart, Nick Scorton.
Scorton would fit, actually.
Scorton would be their type of dude. Scorton would be their
I look
type.
at Scorton and I look at JTT, or like the two edges there that like are the most Raven-ish, if that makes sense.
No, it makes perfect sense to me. I'm tracking 100%. I probably would take Scorton of the two earlier. I really like JTT. But boy, if you're just going Scorton or Emeka, I'm like, well, I know who I have a higher grade on. That's for damn sure.
Hold on, let me just see
in terms
when
of
Bateman's contract expires.
It's got to be soon.
It has to be at this point. So Bateman's deal is up after 2026. They save $7 million if they cut him after this year. Hopkins is cooked at this point. Yeah, why not?
Emeka Ibuka?
Yeah,
Emeka Ibuka, it's a very Ravens move from a draft perspective of, hey, look what the draft board gave us. We'll pick up that dollar that everybody else dropped.
Okay.
I'm with you.
I have not seen this one before, but again, I do like the thought process there. Connor, we're on the board with the Detroit Lions here at number 28. We've got a plethora of players for them to choose from. I mean, James Pierce Jr., Michael Williams, Shamar Stewart, Nick Scorton, all of those guys are available there. If you want to entertain wide receiver further, like Matthew Golden is still here. I don't think they would entertain linebacker. What's their guard situation? Oh, they're plugging in Christian Mahogany. Graham Glasnow is getting older, so like maybe, depending on what you think of their depth there, because they're replacing Kevin Zeitler at one of those spots. Man, where are you going with this one? What do you have a leaning one way or the other?
Yeah, Scorton or Shamar, just depending what kind of player you want. Yeah, I didn't
agree.
I thought this was very narrow to me. I'm like, the fact that I get to pick between both of them here is kind of insane. I guess if I wanted a more prototypical edge, especially since he's down to 257 now, which I think he'll get back to the Purdue form, I would take Scorton. If I wanted the freak of nature, can play truly up and down depending what you ask of him, and Shamar, but I don't think has the pass rush. Shamar doesn't have a go-to pass rush move, like a way to win. Scorton, when you turn on the Purdue tape, when it was like, hey, pin your ears back and go wild, you saw everything. Heavy hands, spin move. So if they want that kind of guy, I would go Scorton. But if they want a little bit more versatility with less polish, I'd go Shamar.
I agree with you that this is the conversation. Here's why I'm going to lean Shamar Stewart and why I think they should pick Shamar Stewart here. One, just the athletic freak in the high ceiling overall. Now, look, we said that, okay, he might not be a sack master, but here's the thing. the Detroit Lions might not need him to be.
Right.
When I think about Nick Scorton, I think about how he won when he was at Purdue versus the positions that he was put in Texas A&M. When he was at Purdue, he was aligned, like you mentioned, he was a little bit lighter in weight. He was aligned a lot as a stand-up, wide pass rusher. So a lot of times he'd be coming from like that like wide 7 alignment. And I don't want to necessarily say that it was like cheap pass rush wins, because I wouldn't say that that's true either, because he showed you a lot of really great hand usage, a lot of really great moves. But when you align in that wide 7 alignment, one, you get a runway of momentum before you get to the offensive tackle, so that certainly helps anytime you're trying to convert speed to power. And two, it makes it really difficult for the offensive line to shift your direction and be able to help when you are out that wide. So you do get a lot of one-on-one opportunities against college offensive tackles. The issue that I would have with him, just to continue that, when he played at A&M this past year, they played him a lot more head up against the offensive tackle.
Right.
And he didn't have that runway. He didn't have that extra leeway and that ability to sort of win a little bit more cleanly with less help to him. And the issue that I have with him in Detroit is he would have to play that alignment a lot more, because Detroit, what they did last year when Aiden Hutchinson was absolutely going nuclear, is they purposefully aligned their defensive line to make it very difficult for any offensive lineman to help block Aiden Hutchinson while also giving him a little bit of space. Like he would be either aligned as like a 6 technique or sometimes even as that wide 7 like I talked about, and they give him the cleaner one-on-one. So they're not going to now all of a sudden like lean and give Nick Scorton those one-on-ones. They're always going to give that to Aiden Hutchinson. So instead, if I get the strength, the speed, the length of Shamar Stewart to play as that base 5 technique head up over the tackle defensive end on the other side, that's the one that I like a lot better for the Detroit Lions.
Yeah, let's roll.
Make sense?
Yeah, it totally makes sense.
You know what this is, Connor? This is the ultimate 4D chess hedge by Trevor, right? Because he can go, yeah, Shamar's getting all the double teams, man. Of course he's not getting sacks. And it'll work just fine. It's the sacrificial Shamar.
Protected, covering all bases.
That's right.
Hey, I've never missed on a prospect, not once. It's always been context. You know, they picked the wrong guy.
Injury.
He got a little hurt. Injury.
Right.
I've never missed on a prospect.
Hey, Trev, never use an excuse in competition that you haven't tried in practice.
Well, if you guys are going Shamar,
Yeah, Shamar Stewart off the board of the Lions.
we could just do Scorton.
Right.
I was-
Yeah,
I
there
was
you go.
looking at this
There
and I'm
you
like,
go.
yeah, and he fits really well from a physical perspective, and it lines it up. I mean, they got Dorrance Armstrong and Clellan Ferrell. Like, this is your succession plan. This is your, hey, he's probably going to take snaps from him by one of those guys from midseason, and into the future, this is the guy we're really leaning on to develop as our center point in the edge, group.
Boom.
All right.
There it is. Easy
Scorton.
peasy.
The Bills up at number 30. Now they could use corner. I really like Trey Amos. So, like, I would legitimately think about Trey Amos here. I know you like Azaria Thomas, so I think he's probably in the conversation there as well. Man, where did Walter Nolan end up going? Man,
The Chargers. Yeah, I know. But Nolan here is it would have been fun.
No, it would have been great.
Too early for Tyleek?
No, that's who I would
say,
take. That's a good call,
like,
Brett.
Tyleek is I think next there.
I would take Tyleek. I think they need beef in their front. Even when Ogunjobi's back from the 6-game suspension, he doesn't give you that.
No, he's not that kind of player.
No.
All right. I don't hate it. Tyleek Williams. I mean, I'd entertain corner, obviously, but you seem to be.
I think they need this. I think corner, they will eventually need it. I look at this team and go, they need a player in the mold of Tyleek at some point of this draft, and I think he's really good. Yeah. I think he's a top 25 player in this class, which I know isn't too popular, but
I think he also changes things for the Bills front a lot, like Brett and EJ did with Tampa.
Yeah, yep.
Where now you can sort of use Ed Oliver kind of however you want, and you're not using him in nearly as much as you're not using him in as many situations where it would really expose any sort of size weaknesses that he might have, and you're basically just putting him in really advantageous situations. So, all right, let's do it. Tyleek Williams, the interior defensive lineman from Ohio State, one of the best run stuffers that we have in this draft here at number 30, the Buffalo Bills. Final pick of this draft for you guys, Kansas City Chiefs at number 31.
EJ, I know we have to eat our vegetables, and the vegetables are left tackle, but can I just suggest sugar cookies for dinner?
Do it.
Because I have a real fun one.
Yeah, go for it.
Sean
Omar
Dolak.
Norman Lott.
Eat dessert first because life is uncertain.
We could all die tomorrow, EJ.
That's right. Great point, EJ. Come on, EJ.
No, I mean,
on the tombstone it says took Omar Norman Lott 31st overall. In parentheses, crazy person.
I'm not sure that that's sugar cookies. This is the Shanahan, right? Sit up at the podium, go, hey, we could all die next week. I don't know.
Like, dude, just an elite quote.
Yeah, phenomenal.
I don't know. I like my green veggies better. This is a Connerly spot for me, and it feels very Chiefs. Like they try this all the time. Not saying it works. I'm saying like this is what the Chiefs do. Like they get that tackle late in the first round, and it's of interesting value. I tend to like Connerly. I think he'd be good in this spot. And I think, again, if we're going to do the stack with defensive tackles, you're going to do better with a defensive tackle than you are with a left tackle later on. So.
All right, fine.
I think the conversation.
Okay, is it Connerly for you, or I just want to ask, and I'll ask everybody here because it's one of the questions I'm really interested in. Donovan Jackson, tackle or guard?
Guard.
Everybody guard. Okay, well then it's Connerly.
Yeah.
Now, if they want to take a guard who could play tackle, I'd rather just take Savanaia.
Oh boy. Savaiinea. There we go.
Savaiinea. There we go.
No, everybody said it differently.
Hey, no, it's Big Jonah. It's just Big Jonah.
Yeah,
we're cool.
Jonah.
We're friends. Jonah. We go back way, so I've always just called him Big Jonah. Ever since
right.
Up,
You're buds.
Called him Big
it's
Jonah.
good.
Yeah,
so you put Savaiinea next to Suamataia.
Yeah, there it is. Nice. Nice.
That was good,
Brett.
Brett.
Nice.
Nah, if
draft
you want
JTT on the other side, and then you're all set.
All right, so you guys taking Connerly?
Yeah.
I think this conversation basically comes down to: do you believe that Connerly is worth a late first, early second round pick? Because if the answer is yes, you're probably picking him for the Chiefs at 31.
Yeah, I kind of have to.
That's pretty much the conversation that we have here. Philadelphia.
All right,
Eagles,
what does Howie get to do? What does Howie get to do?
Howie did it again. He stole the draft.
Look.
I know you want to say James Pierce so bad.
No. I'd take Luther Burden.
Yeah, I was thinking that.
I'd take Luther Burden the third. 100%. I love A.J. Brown, but I mean, there were even rumblings of him not being happy in Philly this year.
Yeah, when they won the Super Bowl.
Right? And I mean, like, so if there's anything that I have learned in this life, it is that your star wide receiver is just it is a ticking time bomb before they demand a trade. That's basically how it is, I feel like, in so many spots in the NFL. Of course, other than the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who have a world-class organization. But
This fucking guy, man.
I don't know how much. I don't know how much longer AJ Brown is going to be on the Philadelphia Eagles. I'm not saying it's imminent, but I'm saying I would rather just in this. I think people look at Howie Roseman and they go, no. He's only going to take trenches. This is all Howie Roseman does. What Howie Roseman does is that he gets ahead of things. And
Yes.
he often does it in the trenches because that's where there's the biggest turnover and an inability to replace it immediately. But right now, the Eagles are pretty dang good in both of their trenches, even with some of the losses that they had on the defensive line. So you can pick a defensive line, and I know they have Jahan Dotson, but if you also throw in the fact that you have Luther Burden III, you have a stud wide receiver, in my opinion, in him and Devontae Smith, independent of whatever might happen with A.J. Brown. And as long as A.J. Brown is on the team, you have an elite trio of wide receivers to defend that Super Bowl with. So I would take Luther Burden III.
I'm not going to deny you that, Joy. That was a great sales pitch. And I think it's legitimately, like, there's good reasoning there. I mean, we saw a little dysfunction throughout a Super Bowl winning season between them and Brown. Even if Brown and them figure it out, you still need a third wide receiver that's an upgrade over Jahan Dotson. You're going one of the best players available here. So, I mean, what are our other options that we're going to do? Okay, we're going to take an interior defensive, like interior pass rusher like Darius Alexander or Omar Norman Lott or TJ Sanders. Are we going to just take Mykel Williams and ask him to be a rugged edge for us and go back to the Georgia well for the 9,000th time? Nothing's wrong with any of these options. But in a scenario where we get the keys to the car, let's take Luther Burden and just make this offense ridiculous.
That's what I would do.
So they get to eat sugar cookies for dinner.
That's absolutely right.
And the Chiefs
You wore
don't.
you wore the green hat,
talk-
man. It's your fault.
You gotta talk to your dad about that one. All right, we're taking Luther the Burden III at number 32, rounding out this first round mock draft. I love you all, the people who are listening audio only. I'm not gonna read all of them off. I still
Subscribe
love
to
you,
the YouTube and then
though.
read it.
Subscribe to the YouTube channel, and while you subscribe to the NFLSE YouTube channel, please go subscribe to the Bootleg Football channel as well. I mean, we had over 2 hours of analysis with these guys, and you just saw how versatile they are, how deep their knowledge is of this NFL draft, and also just how football works. It's why we love these guys. It's why we love having them on. It's why we're big fans of every single thing that they do, independent of them being our friends. Is that I just get smarter every time that I listen to them, and you guys will as well. So make sure you go and subscribe to the Bootleg Football channel wherever you listen, whether it's on YouTube, Spotify, whatever it is. Go check them out, gentlemen. This is fantastic. An over 2 hour show. It's just such a blast getting to link up with you guys. So I appreciate you guys coming on once again this year, kicking off the Collab series.
Yeah, 2 hours and 20 minutes into a mock draft. I think we spent 34 seconds on Washington, so we gotta make it up to them at some point. Sorry, Commanders fans.
It's all right. It's all right. They got plenty of other content for us.
Well, thanks for having us. We deeply appreciate the opportunity. We're
Thank you,
sorry
fellas.
we wiped our muddy shoes on your rug.
It's all right. They're not muddy, and you guys' shoes is welcome in our house anytime. So I appreciate you guys watching and listening. We are going to have one more episode for you guys later this week. As Connor and I often do, we kind of have an idea of what it's going to be. We'll see what it is. So you guys just gotta tune in. I hope that's a tease and not just hinting at us needing to be better at planning. But you guys know the drill on this show, anyways. For Brett Kollmann and EJ Snyder, for Connor Rogers, I'm Trevor Sikkema saying thank you guys so much for watching and listening to another episode of the NFL Stock Exchange podcast. We'll see you guys next time.